Good evening, everyone. Today's Tuesday, June 9th. We're a little late getting started, but pretty close to starting time, so thanks, everyone. I know it's difficult sometimes to get here. We do appreciate it. So I'd like to call this meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to order. Let me take a moment to read the open public meeting announcement. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6. Specifically on January 28, 2026, proper notice was sent to the electronic news sources of record, filed with the municipal court at the Township of Bridgewater, and posted on the municipal bulletin board. Please be aware of the Zoning Board of Adjustment policy for public hearings. No new applications will be heard after 9:30 p.m., and no new testimony will be taken after 10 p.m. And then for those of you who have hearing assistance and other issues, you may read the rest of that to yourself. So please stand if you're able and join me in saluting the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, Ms. Probst, may we have a roll call?
Chairman Kulak,
Here.
Mr. Wadelli,
Here.
Mrs. Amin,
Here.
Mr. Franco,
Here.
Mr. Fresco is absent, Ms. Henderson Rose. Here. Mr. Gajewski,
Here.
Ms. Wiseman. Here. Mr. Vesio,
Here.
Lucci. Mr. Mignella. Rich Aller, Board Attorney.
Here.
Bill Burr, Board Engineer. Here. Catherine Sarmad, Board Planner. Here. You have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm going to take a moment to open the meeting to the public. For members of the public wishing to address this board on any matter that's not on the agenda this evening, and if you have any of those issues, you may do so at this time. I'd ask you to come up to the microphone, sign in, and tell us what's on your mind. Looks like we have two volunteers. Welcome.
Hey. Hello, everyone. Good evening. We'll just take a moment of your time. I'm Lori LaPerry. This is my husband, Anthony LaPerry, and we are here tonight regarding a property that just went for sale on Foothill Road. It is 619 Foothill Road, which is block number 536, lot 12. The reason we are here is there has been a lot of activity on our street, which is 196 Orchard Street. We live at the end of the cul-de-sac, and we have lived there for the past 29 years. The property that is for sale on Foothill Road runs the entire length of our property on Orchard Street. Our concern is Orchard Street has been a dead-end cul-de-sac street. I've lived on the street for 55 years. I grew up on that street. We've raised our children on that street. It has always been a dead-end street. Per my survey, there's no paper road. There's no plans for a road. I just wanted to put it on the board's radar that we are very concerned that if a buyer does buy the house on Foothill Road, that he will seek to make our road connect to Foothill Road.
Actually, it might be better if you just move the mic a little closer to you. You won't hit it, and
Thank you.
we'll be able to hear you.
We are concerned that it is 4 acres of property.
Okay.
So it runs deep from Foothill Road all the way to Foothill Road and actually backs up against the houses on Bryan Drive, which are the houses behind us.
Okay.
So it would impact everybody. Orchard Street has a road that is Warren Avenue, which dead ends. Orchard Street is a dead end. The road at the end of Warren is a dead end. So they are all dead ends. So once you come into Orchard Street, you are in a dead end. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody's been there for many, many years. So my concern, again, would be them trying to extend the road to Foothill Road or extend our road in any way. So I did put in an Oprah request, but I know that there's no information other than that the property is currently for sale that they could give me, but I'm sure a builder is not going to pay $1.4 million for a house built in 1960, which they will knock down, without knowing if they can develop that 4 acres of land. So it will severely impact our neighborhood, our street, and all of the dead-end streets. Our children both live, they're grown and married, and we have 4 grandchildren that live on the corner of Orchard Street and Hillside Avenue, which is a bus stop for about 25 children every morning. I don't want that to become a thoroughfare from Foothill Road and have it be a danger. There are no sidewalks. There's already a drainage problem at the end of that street, which I'm sure you're aware of when you put in the new paving on that road. So I really just didn't want to come too late. I'm sure, like I said, a builder is not going to buy that property for $1.4 million without knowing the answer to the question that I'm asking. So my question really is, can that road be extended? Per my survey in 1998, it is a dead-end road and there's no paper road. So I don't know who can answer that question, if anyone can answer that question, but that really is our question tonight.
Well, I can tell you that at this moment in time, I have no information about that which you speak, but would you give me I have the lot and block numbers 536-12. Can I have the address again?
It is 619 Foothill Road.
619.
Previous owner is Paris Scandola. It's been in their family for generations. Donald and his wife owned it, and then Jimmy, and he just passed away in the fall. So both houses on Foothill Road. Now, one house doesn't have enough footage to put a road through, but the owner owns that house and the house next to it, and I can envision both of them houses being knocked down and a road coming right down that street or extending Orchard Street through to Foothill Road. And none of us in the neighborhood certainly want to see that happen, and I'm sure if anything were on the agenda, we would have, 200 people within the neighborhood in here in this room tonight. It only just went for sale about 9 or 10 days ago, so it is very new.
Yes.
But again, I'm sure a builder is not going to put up $1.4 million without asking the same question that we are. What can be developed with that land?
Right.
Legal 619 is Foothill Road.
Right.
It's not anything with Orchard Street whatsoever.
Yes,
Right.
understood.
I looked at this when it came on the market. So it's a very narrow strip of property. So you're worried that they're going to try to make it a through street and subdivide and,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
It's 4 acres.
It's 4 acres of
that's a
property.
valid concern.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If it helps you at all, in order for them to extend the street, they had this large green area that they would have to cross, which I assume is a
Well,
wetland.
I think that's the area, what you're looking at, yes, that's actually the lot.
That's wetlands. Oh, thank you.
While we will do a little research to answer your question. When it comes to putting roadways through or adding in roadways, changing dead ends, things like that, all of that is typically the work of the borough, of the Bridgewater Township Council, and so application would have to be made to them. Mr. Burrow, I'm going to put you on the spot for just a moment, if I may, without knowing the specific property, but just from a procedural point of view, if someone were going to make application to either put in a roadway or change a dead end or cul-de-sac, wouldn't they have to go directly to the township?
Yes, I believe they would.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, if there's a subdivision or any type of building proposal at hand, they would have to come to either this board or the planning board.
Right.
Any type of road extension certainly is going to have to involve the.
And, with
governing
respect
body.
to an application that might come before this board, I'm going to caution this board they should not render any type of preliminary opinions on the property today or before there's an application before it, right? Because this board sits as a quasi-judicial board and is a neutral in determining those types of applications. So if there were an application for any type of subdivision and if the resulting lots were conforming to whatever the zone requires, it wouldn't even come here, it would go to the planning board, right? So, chances are, just hearing what you're talking about, it's probably an application type that would go to the planning board rather than this one. But to the extent it might come here, I would caution the board not to render any type of a preliminary opinion today.
Would I be notified as a bordering
Yes.
property?
If you're within 200 feet of the property,
It is my property line.
Yes,
We
then
share
you'll-
the
you'll
same
be
property line for
notified.
the full acre of my property.
yep, you would be notified.
I'm just worried that at that point, it's too late and someone's bought the property and then it's, it's in the process of being developed and then it's a fight of all of the neighborhood coming together to stop it as opposed to, you know, no one can answer the question, if that road is a dead end, would it stay a dead end? I mean, if they come in from Foothill Road, there's not much I can do about it, but if they're changing my dead-end street to a non-dead-end street, and there's not 150 foot of front at the end of that road, I would assume they would have to either buy property from me or my neighbor across the street in order to
It's all
extend.
conjecture until we actually see what their potential plan might be. I mean, maybe they'll just buy it and build one big house. I don't, you know, who knows?
Okay, let's hope so. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much for
Well,
your time.
thank you for
Okay,
bringing your
thank you.
concerns to us. We have someone else who would like to offer an opinion, but you have to come up to the microphone, please, and tell us who you are and where you live.
Hi, my name is Frank Rochelle. I'm at 134 Warren Avenue, and I'm in support of the Leparis as well because it'll affect me. I'm on a side street there. And so not only have we been there 27 years, it's invested a lot of money in the house, so this will affect all real estate values in the area, obviously, if it goes from a dead end to a non-dead end. That's a
Yeah,
common
it's just
sense
premature to come today to this board. And again, this board can't
Yeah.
render.
No, I understand that, but I'm just giving you the facts.
Okay.
Think if it was your house, what would you would say?
It sounds like
Okay.
an application that would probably go to
Right.
the planning board.
No sidewalks, kids walking up the street, safety issues, privacy issues.
And all
It's
all
nice
of
to-
those concerns that you have will be appropriate for you to discuss them with either the planning board or the township council should
Okay.
such an application be made, and so should somebody want to
Okay.
change roadways or make that kind of future plans. But right now, we noted your concern. We appreciate your coming out and letting us know. We'll see what happens as we move forward.
Okay. And the process would be the planning board, then the council? Would it be two-step?
It is likely that they'll go to the planning board first.
Okay,
Should they be changing roadways, they would eventually have to go to the township council,
okay,
but we would also be notified of that.
okay, all right, thank you.
Not us, the zoning board, but,
Yeah.
sorry, but you would be notified publicly, because it'll either be on the planning board agenda or the township council's agenda.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I knew the process so I could.
Yes.
Okay,
No, and I
thank you.
appreciate your coming out. Thank you.
Thank you, take care.
Okay, any other members of the public who have something to discuss that's not on the agenda for this evening? Seeing none, let's close that portion of the meeting. We have some minutes that we would like to adopt. And Nancy, please tell me, we have both March 24th and April 14th minutes?
Correct.
Okay. And with that, I'd like to have a motion to accept the minutes. Oh, we have to do each one separately.
Different people vote.
Okay, so March 24th, may I have a motion to accept those minutes into the record? Mr. Whiteley moves. Do I have a second? Ms. Rose? Do we need a roll call on this? Yes, we do.
We don't need a roll call, just for the record, Mr. Gajewski and Mr. Franco will be marked as ineligible
Okay.
or absent. So by voice vote.
We can do a voice vote. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Now let's move on to the minutes from April 14th, 2026. Similarly, I'd like to have a motion to approve those minutes. Mr. Whiteley, and I have a second. Ms. Rose. And voting,
Everyone is eligible.
everyone is eligible. So all those in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye or yes. Aye. And the ayes have it, and we will accept those minutes as they were. We have a resolution that would like to also have approved, and this resolution was regarding application number 25-024-ZB, Solar Landscape LLC. It's Block 303, Lot 8.04, 22 Van Vechten Drive. I'm sure everybody's had the opportunity to review the resolution. Were there any changes or amendments, anything?
I do have one, actually, on page 8. The whereas clause references that the board took action on May 12, 2026. It should be April 14, 2026.
Okay.
Otherwise, nothing else.
Any other comments about the resolution?
I move with the change, Rich.
Mr. Whiteley moves it with the change.
Second that.
Mrs. Amin is seconding, and we will have a roll call on that.
Chairman Kulak,
Yes.
Mr. Wadelli,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Amin,
Yes.
Ms. Rose,
Yes.
and Mr. Gieske.
Yes.
Very well, so the resolution has passed. Let's move on to, we have a few things, a few business items. One is listed for announcement purposes only, and this matter only is being carried to 7 or July 28, 2026, without further notice. It's a continuance from 3/10/26 with changed circumstances to add a D4 variance relief. It's application number 25-017-ZB, and it's the Shaw property, Block 545, Lot 14, 261 Liam Street. So that's going to be moved forward and carried to 7/28/26 without further notice. Moving forward, we have what we're calling an initial hearing, but this is application number 23-009, ZB Chimney Rock Self-Storage LLC, Block 800, Lot 9, 1661, Route 22. They're asking for an extension of a prior approval. Mr. Oler, you want to take us through this,
Yes,
please?
So, Mr. Chairman, the applicant, Chimney Rock Self Storage, received preliminary and final site plan approval nearly 2 years ago with use variance approval. Pursuant to the municipal land use law, final site plan approvals are entitled to 2 years of protection against zone changes. That 2 years is almost up. Municipal land use law allows the applicant to obtain 3 separate one-year extensions. So this would be their first of 3 one-year extensions, which would again extend the protection for zoning approval change. And as noted by the applicant in his application, the reasons were that there's volatility in pricing of materials, supply chain disruption, and which has impacted their ability for financing currently. So I would recommend to the board that we approve their first of 3 one-year extensions.
So we have a motion from Ms. Rose. We have a second, Mrs. Amin, and Ms. Probst, and we're going to have a roll call on this, please.
Chairman Kulak,
Yes.
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 Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Ms. Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Ms. Wiseman,
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio,
Yes.
Mr. Colucci,
Yes.
Mr. McNella.
That's, yeah, I'm sorry, but there's only 7. That was everybody, I think.
I thought for the,
Only 7. Always only 7.
extras.
Very well. So we have then the continuance will be granted. Is there any special thing that you need to do, Mr. Oler, or
Now,
just?
we'll have a resolution at the next meeting.
Very well.
Okay?
Thank you. So moving forward, we're now into the second hearing. It's a continuance from, let's see, 5/12/26, application number 25-016ZB. That was the initial hearing, and this is Garden Oak Specialties. And we're going to pick up where we left off at our last meeting. I believe we're about to hear from, well, I'm not going to say what we're about to do, but I'm going to talk to your attorney when he comes up and see if we can move on from there. So this is Garden Oak Specialties, and this is the continuance from 5/12/26. Yeah, we have 2 things that we'd like you to do. One is to refresh us, but before we get to that, just quickly, there was a zoning violation issued on the adjacent property, to my knowledge, and that we have the same ownership on both parcels. Part of any decision we make is based on sort of the good faith between the two parties, that any conditions we impose or any zoning ordinances that exist will be complied with. So here we know we have the same owners with respect to a violation, and would like you to help us understand what that was and where we are in clearing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Aller did bring that to my attention, so thank you for that.
That's better.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yeah, so Mr. Aller did bring that to my attention, so I thank him for that. And I reached out right away for our client, who actually went out. He did speak to Mr. Scalera, understood what the problem is, and the problem is that there was a contractor dumping some construction debris and dirt on the neighboring property. As I understand it, all of the construction debris has already been removed. The contractor has been given his notice and told that he has to be out of there and everything cleaned up no later than 30 days, and that property will not be used for that purpose anymore.
And it's your understanding that that should resolve the issue from the violations that were issued?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Mr. Oler?
That would be satisfactory, I think, and, I just do want to point out that that's the adjacent property, not the property that's part of the application before
Right.
the board. So it really has no impact on Lot 16, which is what's before the board. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate your clearing it up for us. So now you can give us the recap.
Okay. So as you know, the property is located at 1921 Route 22 West. It is the Garden Oaks facility, and they sell sheds and other yard implements. We had confirmed last time we were here that it is a pre-existing non-conforming use. I think we had produced some documentation going all the way back to I can't remember, 50s or 60s, something like that. And the photo kind of showed, some of the same things there, including the sign. So we are located in the C3 zoning district. We're lot 16, block 821, and we're just under 3 acres in size. The application before you is to continue this use and significantly upgrade and improve the site by replacing the antiquated buildings, adding site improvements such as a stormwater management system, site lighting, a new well and a septic system, walkways, and a paved parking area. None of that which is really there right now. So, it's just improvement after improvement that we're proposing for this pre-existing non-conforming use. The use itself is not permitted as a principal use, so we were requesting either a D1 and or a D2 expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use. I believe we came to the conclusion last time that it would be appropriately a D2 variance. There are also some non-conforming bulk conditions. We're going to have our planner address those in some detail. But we did have testimony at the last hearing of Jason, representative of the applicant. He explained to you, the operation as it exists and how these improvements will make our operation more efficient, safer, and overall aesthetically better. Our architect provided his testimony. He showed you some renderings. My opinion, a very substantial upgrade to the buildings over what exists now. And we had our site engineer, Jardman, testify as well, and he explained to you all of the site improvements we're going to make, which I just kind of mentioned. So overall, I think, it's really an application where we're not looking to truly expand the use from what's already existed, but certainly to improve that use, make it safer, more efficient, and more aesthetically pleasing than what's out there right now.
Great. Well, thank you very much for the recap and the summary. We appreciate it. And now I'm presuming you're going to introduce us to your planner.
I am Kevin O'Brien.
And we're doing okay with the microphones, but just so everyone knows, it's important for us to speak into the microphones because this is being broadcast live on YouTube, but also recorded on YouTube. And if you ever want to look at the archive of the meetings that we've had in the past, you can do that, but you'll notice that if someone wasn't speaking into the mic, there's a blank spot where they were supposed to be talking. So you can see their lips move, but you can't hear them. So we spend a little time just telling you, please, to speak into the microphone so we can record it for posterity.
Mr. O'Brien, would you raise your right hand, please? Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And for the record, your name, please?
Use the microphone, please.
Professional planner with Shamrock Enterprises in Rahway, New Jersey.
Okay. Would you share your scholastic background and professional background with the board, please?
Yes, thank you, Council. I have appeared before this board numerous occasions, most recently last summer. I do have a graduate degree from the New Jersey Institute of Technology. I teach planning and zoning at Rutgers University Center for Government Services, as well as the Association of Planning and Zoning Administrators and the New Jersey Planning Officials. My license is in good standing and has no actions against it now or ever.
And your license is in New Jersey?
My license is in New Jersey. We are the only state that licenses professional planners of the 50 states. Oregon does have something that's not terribly dissimilar, but in addition to my professional planning license issued by the state of New Jersey, which is, I've been in planning for about 40 years now, I also have my certification from the American Institute of Certified Planners, which is recognized nationally throughout the United States.
Great. The board is happy to accept your credentials. Thank you for coming back. Mr. Oler, do you need to swear our guys in yet, or?
Why don't we do that? I did that last time, right? Yeah, and I'll just remind you that you remain under oath. Okay.
Great, thank you. Mr. O'Brien, please.
Thank you so much, Chairman. As council has said, we are here for a D2 expansion of a non-conforming use for the Garden Shed Landscape Specialty Store. A number of existing structures will be removed. As Mr. Sullivan has pointed out, this application is going to significantly beautify this property. We've all known this over the many years as an interesting collection of I'm about to say Hobbitville because I'm looking at the lettering on the township seal, but all the tiny structures there, all of which were rather charming, all of which served their purpose. Now the ownership is willing to put up, as you've seen, a very large structure that is befitting this particular use and befitting the area. It's going to make this look very, very nice. It's a beautiful structure, and it's going to regularize the property. It's going to clean it up, and it's going to make it look a lot better. This building is going to be up to date with code compliance, as opposed to the collection of things that are there now. The use and the owner have been on site since prior to the zoning change in 1976. And that's when it was made a C3 zone. The owner has testified previously that they were here on or about 1970. Over the existing conditions in the site. For instance, setback is still being violated, but it is much better than it was, much more compliant than it was. One of the purposes of zoning is to bring properties more into compliance. The C3 office and service zone has an interesting mix of allowed uses, including business, professional, and service offices, health clubs, wellness centers, day spas and gyms, indoor commercial recreation, adult medical daycare. Those are pretty intense uses, and they are allowed by right. intense in that, let's just take a medical facility. I look at the makeup of the board. Some of you, like me, have a little more gray hair than we used to when we were younger. Perhaps some of us visit medical facilities a little more frequently than we used to. Perhaps not, and if so, that's a wonderful thing. Fortunately, I've visited a few more than I would have liked to. And what do I see? They're packed, they're full, the waiting rooms are full, the parking lots are full. Trying to get in to see a doctor, as you know, everything is just packed. So this pre-existing non-conforming use, I think, is a better fit for this area and this stretch of Route 22 than what would be allowed otherwise. A heavily intensive medical facility, for instance, or perhaps an adult daycare center, buses in and out, morning and afternoon, visitors, indoor commercial recreation. What if this were a gym? It'd be heavy in the morning, it'd be heavy at night, but they're busy during the day. So that's a pretty intense use. This one, as we know, this year, you've seen this thing, busy in the evenings, busy on Saturdays, on Sundays. Because in terms of intensity, it's not terribly intense compared to what could be here. So, as a use variance, we've got to show you a few things. That there are special reasons based on the purposes of zoning. We've got to continue the burden of proof by showing that we meet the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. For instance, what does the master plan say about this application? And Bridgewater has a number of policies in their master plan. For instance, under 2.2A for alpha, provide a balanced land use pattern in the township of residential, commercial, and other uses. B, Bravo, maintain and strengthen existing commercial districts. C, continue to permit development within existing zones where there is infrastructure, intermodal access, and an established pattern of development. You're on Route 22, that's fitting that description. Encourage appropriate development of land use that will diversify the municipal economic base, create economic employment opportunities, and strengthen the tax base. And under P, require aesthetically pleasing land use design with subtle character in site appearance and landscape buffering, including along major corridors. This application certainly fits those requirements. And in terms of the special needs part of the burden of proof, this application also meets several of the purposes of zoning that are listed in the municipal land use law in section 2. And that is A, encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state. F, encourage the appropriate expenditure and efficient expenditure of public funds by the coordination of public development and land use policies, just as the master plan and the municipal land use law both overlap here. G, provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of commercial uses. I, provide a desirable visual environment. And M, encourage coordination of the various public and private procedures shaping land use development. This application is consistent with the electronic passage. It locates a pre-existing, compatible, needed, and attractive use in an appropriate location that is particularly suited to the garden, shed, shopping center. The other burden of proof we have to meet is whether or not there is a negative impact upon the township and the neighborhood. And in short, I don't see a negative impact upon the neighborhood or the town. There will be a continued positive economic impact, a larger tax rateable, continued permanent employment, and temporary construction employment, all of which will support local businesses. The reference book that planners and attorneys in land use use, called the Cox book, talks about a D2 expansion variance burdens of proof. And it's, while an applicant for a D2 variance permitting expansion of a lawfully created pre-existing nonconforming use need not show that it would have been entitled to a variance for the initial nonconformity, it nevertheless must satisfy the same positive and negative criteria test as the other D variances. We meet the positive and negative criteria by showing that this pre-existing use is compatible with the master plan, compatible with the purposes of zoning, and has no negative impact. I believe that the bulk variances that are requested are subsumed within the proofs for the use variance, also as established by our reference book, the Cox Book. I can conclude that I believe this application can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. Mr. Sullivan, do you have any further questions? Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions of the board?
Not at this moment. I will ask the board members if they have any questions of your testimony. Seeing none. Ms. Sarmat.
I have no questions for this witness. Thank you. Mr.
Thank you. We appreciate very much your testimony, and thank you for appearing before the board. And we'll move forward.
My pleasure, Chair, to be.
Thank you.
So that does conclude our presentation of witnesses and evidence. So we are, if I could just sum up, well, I don't know if there's any public questions or comments.
Well, I should ask that, I'm sorry. Before, Mr. O'Brien, before you leave, just let's quick check if there's anybody from the public who has any questions for you on your testimony. I got ahead of myself there. But seeing none, we can resume where we were. Thank you.
Yeah, if there's no public comment, I'll just sum up very quickly. You know, we think the application is pretty straightforward, presents a use of the site that has been there for, you know, at this point, over 50 years. As I mentioned earlier, you know, we're not asking to truly expand the use that is already there. We're really here to improve that use. Granted, you know, we do have an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use, but I think, you know, overall, we're just making this a better site than what has existed for a number of years. The site itself is more than adequate in size to accommodate the use. This, as Mr. O'Brien mentioned, this use is much less intense than a lot of other uses that are permitted in the C3 zoning district. To me, I kind of found this refreshing. You know, you get this big piece of property out there on 22, and guess what? We're not asking to put up a car dealership or a hotel, so I found that kind of refreshing in terms of when the applicant originally brought this application to me. Some of the improvements I mentioned, I just want to reiterate that. We have a number of antiquated buildings on site. All of those are going to be removed and replaced with the new buildings. You saw the drawings. You agree with me that they're rather attractive and are a major visual upgrade to the site. I hope you do, because that's what that's kind of my opinion in terms of what we're presenting there. We are going to delineate a parking area. We're going to pave it. None of that exists right now. We're going to delineate the drive aisle. A lot of that doesn't exist now. It's been more of a beaten path than anything else. We are adding a stormwater management system. None of that exists right now. So that's going to be a major improvement to the property. We are adding some landscaping and lighting. Again, you know, what is there is going to be improved upon. We're adding the brand new well in the septic system. I believe that we provided earlier the approval, I think, from Somerset County for the septic system. And we're also going to eliminate some of the encroachments. I think you guys brought that to our attention.
Yes.
Maybe Mr. Mott at the last meeting.
Oh, all of the encroachments, right?
We're going to eliminate all of the encroachment. Did I say some? I meant all. And as Mr. O'Brien mentioned, you know, the site is suitable for the use. We are compatible with the master plan. This does satisfy some of the purposes of zoning. And I agree with Mr. O'Brien that I don't really see any negatives. So with all of that said, we would ask you to consider granting the application.
Very well. Thank you. Let's have some comments from the board members themselves.
Mr. Chairman, I'm very pleased with everything that they're doing. I'm comfortable with the traffic because they're not altering the business structure. Their proposal to improve on variances and to comply with our township engineer and our township planner and to remove the sheds on the adjacent property, I'm comfortable with. The architectural design is consistent with the nature of the business. I like the fact that it incorporates a residential style and the selected materials, you know, are appropriate with the character.
Very well. Thank you. Anybody else who wants to go into it? Ms. Rose?
I'm very pleased with the presentation. I have only one concern. Second floor is not barrier-free. And I know that you don't anticipate having clients go up the stairs, but you may very well have future employees who would need access to the second floor either because they have a handicap or, as I grow older, fall down and break something and can't get to the second floor. So I would ask that there be some consideration for some modification that would allow the second floor to be barrier-free. Other than that, it's great.
Mr. Gajewski, would you like to comment, please?
I'm in support of the application. I mean, I think I've purchased numerous sheds from Garden Oaks. We're familiar with the layout there, and I think it's an overall improvement. I personally don't find it an eyesore as it is today, but definitely would support what they're doing there, and I think it will aesthetically be an improvement functionally and address a number of safety issues.
Mrs. Amin, would you have any comments you'd like to offer?
I have a question for Mr. Sullivan. You know, on that property, you see a lot of U-Haul trucks parked. Are they part of this business or something else? At least like maybe 10 or 12 U-Haul trucks. Are they part of this business and part of that office?
That I would have to defer to my client. I'm not able to answer that.
You know,
All right, we would need you to come here, yep.
yeah. I pass by that property almost every day because I have my office in that area.
You can just use this microphone at the podium. And you
Give us your name first, please.
Jason Onishchak?
had previously been sworn in?
Yes. So we are a neighbor haul U-Haul dealer. Trucks come and go.
Those are parked, you allow them to park? on your-
They park a couple trucks and they go out, they flow in and out.
Okay, so then they park overnight also?
Just depending on when something gets rented.
And is that part of your business or sort of?
It's part of Garden Oaks, it's the same, it's just under U-Haul neighborhood. So it's through Garden Oaks.
So this expansion of the building has nothing to do with all that other business that you have truck?
No.
No, okay.
So can you just clarify for me, does that mean they're just dropping trucks off, but if they were going to rent something, do they come to you?
It
And
goes through the U-Haul system, through a POS system that they have, and basically a key gets left out in the lockbox, truck goes out, truck comes in.
So we have two businesses running out of the property?
It's all under, so it's technically, I guess there's a contract with U-Haul through Garden Oaks.
So, do you have, are you saying that having a U-Haul business is part of the Garden Oaks
We're a
business?
neighborhood dealer, yes.
Is it typical that garden facilities such as this would have U-Haul
There's
services?
a lot, there's one in Case, we're friends with, they're called Buxton's Backyards, they're down in Ewing. They do the same thing, they're a garden center and shed company. It's actually very common, it's supplemental.
Is it possible that your customers who are purchasing sheds and/or gazebos are renting that equipment to?
Actually, that's a great question. We have a lot of people who bring chairs, furniture. They buy wishing wells or chairs off of our lot, or even when they buy pond liner and whatnot, and they will actually rent a truck to take it home so that they don't have to pay us for delivery.
Sure.
It happens all the time.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Mr.
Well,
Oler?
I mean, the point that I'm getting to, and I'd like Catherine to chime in a little bit, you know, are we running two businesses? Is there a D1 that we need for the U-Haul business? Maybe we can bring their planner back to have an opinion on the record. You know, it just seems that, you know, potentially the U-Haul business is a separate business, even though it's part of, you know, the same company. And if so, you know, it's not part of the D2, right? Because that didn't exist in 1970, whatever. So that's new, and, you know, kind of drives us as a D1 potentially for the U-Haul business. I don't know, what do you think?
Well, I have driven by there and seen the U-Hauls. My question is that happening on the Garden Oaks property? Because they appear to be in that
Yes,
drive aisle, right? They're not actually on the property.
they are on the property.
They are on the property? So the ones that are being parked when you drive by and you see that lane of them on the kind of roadway there, is that the only place they're being parked?
Yes.
That's outside of the property limit, at least according to the survey. The edge of the property line ends before that pavement begins. Even,
They're right on that pavement line.
well, and that's another question I have is if they're not being stored on this property and they're in a right-of-way, you know, I have more of a problem, I think, with the fact that, and so if the use is separate from, or it's not on this property, let's say, right? As I see it, or the question I just asked is really, is it on this property? It seems to be happening in the right-of-way right there. And I have more problem with that about access, safety, the other properties that utilize that, being off a highway. Rich, if it's not on the property, I mean,
Yeah, is the right-of-way dedicated? Do we know? Is that a dedicated right-of-way to the township, like, or is it part of Lot 17? I can't tell where that property line is for Lot 17.
I think I asked that question at the last meeting,
Yeah.
and we were told that it's not a public right-of-way.
it's a private right-of-way.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not an easement, it's a private right-of-way.
So it's part of Lot 17, right? It traverses Lot 17. And those four buildings that are on Lot 17, is that a Lot 17 business, or is that part of?
Lot 17 is its own lot.
Yeah,
It's a different-
that's what I mean. So those four buildings have nothing to
It's a
do
different-
with you,
nothing.
with Garden Center. Okay. Are they involved in the U-Haul business?
No.
Okay. Okay, so the U-Haul business is run out of Lot 16, they're just parked in the right-of-way, which is part of Lot 17, a private right-of-way on Lot 17.
I don't even know if it's part of Lot 17. The lot lines are
I
showing,
can't tell from the survey.
yeah,
honestly.
I have the electronics, so I have the benefit of being able
Yeah.
to zoom in nicely. It appears that it has its own boundaries that separate it.
Can I ask a question? Is it a service you provide, or is you all operating on your property?
Technically, it's a service that we have. So we offer the service of the truck rental.
Are there any other business lines that you'd be potentially going into with this building? Or is it just a continuation
No,
of
just
the
a
current?
continuation.
And this is a continuation of a business and a service you offer currently?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to change anything else. I mean, it's 54 years of the same
Right.
basic.
And the U-Haul service that you provide is essentially a way for people to sometimes transport things which they've purchased from you. Other times, perhaps it's just a convenient location for them to pick up a trailer or what have you.
And also,
And it's usually,
it's easier, I mean, we're empty in the winter. We really don't work much in the winter, so it's a little bit
Right.
that helps us that, just to get through the winter. It's so hard as a small business and as a garden center / shed company to operate in the winter.
I understand. So what we're saying, though, is that it's a continuation of the business as it is currently been operated since whenever you had your agreement with U-Haul. So I don't know, Mr. Oler, how that impacts it. Mr. Sullivan, if you have an opinion, we're all ears.
Well, it's certainly after, and I will tell you, until Ms. Amin brought up the question, I was not aware. But it certainly sounds like, in part, it's an accessory use to the.
Well, that's why I was asking them, is it something that you normally see with the garden center? It kind of makes sense that they have customers that come and buy things, and it's a great amenity to their business to have them right there, right? So I can see where maybe it's an accessory use. I don't know, what do you think? Yeah.
have a,
It's because I've seen it at other places, so like when you go to rent a U-Haul, like even Home Depot, not Home Depot has their own, but when you go, some of the self-storage places have them, because it's kind of the same thing. They know you're moving big things, so they kind of are like, have it in one and the same. Now, I think my point still stands about the parking in the right-of-way. Whether or not it's an accessory use to what's being expanded on the Garden Oaks property, if the lot can't adequately hold those trucks and they're parking them in a right-of-way that other properties in the surrounding area need to access their property safely off of a highway, then that's the bigger problem.
Right, well, we haven't established whether they can't park the trucks on their own property, they just don't currently, because it's more convenient to use the right-of-way.
Yes, and that, I think that certainly could be a condition, of the board's consideration, for
Which
that.
condition then, to,
The condition that the parks be parked on their own property
okay,
outside of the right-of-way limits.
understood, thank you. Before Mrs. Amin, we want to resolve this one, so is this the same topic? Well, go ahead, ask your question. Go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, please.
Mr. Sullivan, see, if you have two businesses running from that building, are they registered? Or both, the U-Haul is a parking facility kind of a thing, a separate business from Garden Oaks, right?
It's all paid out to Garden Oaks, so it's all under Garden Oaks.
All under one business.
Yes, it's not,
So you can park those U-Haul trucks on your property, instead of
there is a
encroaching
fence
some.
line that is coming down, and that would shift our
Yes,
U-Hauls over.
Okay.
Yes, they will be on our.
on one property, yeah. You're providing parking for that, and that's it.
They're on the site plan, there's actually an area on the right side of the building that is designated on our property, that, right now, there's a fence up, there's always been a fence up, so the fence is coming down because of the building statute, and then they would just get shifted over.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Vesio, do you have a question?
I have no question, just to comment on
Yeah,
final
please.
deliberation. I did listen to the transcript from the last meeting. I think Route 22 is a perfect location. Really, I think for a unique business, there's not many of these, businesses around town, except if you go to Home Depot and buy one of those. But, certainly, it's good to have, small business in our community, something unique like this. I think it's a perfect location for it, for, delivery of these wide deliveries, also, coming in and also going out. I am also kind of pleased to see you are raising the grade around the building as well. I was subject to the flash flood last May. I know you folks were impacted, so I think it's, proper improvement for the site to raise the building. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Colucci, comments?
I think it's an improvement, like Claudio just said, I see no problem with it, and I was over there myself and walked around. I think the new improvements will really make this nicer looking and more appealing off the road. And as long as we keep the U-Hauls on your property, I don't see any problems with it.
Great, thank you. Ms. Wiseman, comments?
I am in favor of the continuing non-conforming use. I think that it makes sense. But I also agree that steps should be taken or a condition should be put in place that anything that's under your business's umbrella should take place on your lot. I think that's just good general.
Mr. McDowell, comments?
Yes. I've been driving by that property since I'm a kid, which is probably the 50-something years at this point. But, to not see the sheds there, and in the past, I know there's been swing sets and a pirate ship or something. It would be a shame to see something else there. I'm glad that you have the foresight to improve your property. The plan, the building, I think looks great. It's going to look better than if something else came in. You used to have a driving range across the street. That's gone. You had this little sort of bucolic corner of the highway there. You're keeping it going, and I would approve the application.
Mr. Widley, any comments?
Yes. Actually, I bought my shed there a while ago, and actually I've been there a few other times, not recently, but I've been there, and, the buildings do need improvement, and I think that you put a lot of thought into this whole project to clean up the property, can I use that word, and make it really look nice, and I'm really glad you want to stay, because like you said, when you drive down 22 and see the swing sets and the sheds, it's different than seeing a car lot or something else, or a big flag, over the whole thing, and so I'm in favor of the whole thing. And the U-Haul thing doesn't bother me at all. I think the majority of the people use them like they would at Home Depot to take something home, and that's what your purpose. Because I had friends who had businesses years ago before costs skyrocketed, and they actually owned the vans and would rent them out but then it got too expensive to do that. So I don't have a problem with it, but I'm in favor of the whole application.
Thank you. From my perspective, I see a multi-generational family business with a long-term pre-existing use. The property will be enhanced substantially by the design that you propose to us. It'll, in my opinion, make your business more efficient and perhaps attract even more customers so that you can be more successful. I think it gives you an opportunity to display your merchandise in some ways differently. And I would be very much in support of this. I need to ask two questions. One is, Mr. Oler, what are we thinking now in terms of the appropriate relief so that we can make?
Well, actually, I was thinking maybe we could have Mr. O'Brien come back up and give us some reasons why the U-Haul is a part of the D2 expansion of their current uses. So we have something on the record.
Mr. O'Brien, thank you. Glad you didn't leave.
Always a pleasure, Chairman. Thank you.
Is there any way we could just clarify too that it's just the trucks from U-Haul service? Because they do offer other services at U-Haul, right? Like propane and storage containers and stuff. Like I just want to make sure.
So it's just trailers and/or small trucks?
All right.
Thank you.
I think an interesting question has been raised, but when you look at what's being actually done here, the U-Haul is, I believe, an accessory to the garden center, shed sales. It's been explained that people rent the U-Hauls to bring equipment home. It is very much like bring the big stuff home. U-Hauls are commonly found these days in multiple places. The U-Haul brand, you can find them in a gas station where they are accessory to the gas station use. But they're not exactly, I don't think that they're strictly accessory to the gas station use, because you're not buying stuff at the gas station to haul home in a truck. But over time, towns have found that it's ancillary because I guess they use motors, gas stations sell gas, and somehow they've made that work through common sense. In this particular case, you're talking about something that really does flow from the business itself. And if the occasional person comes by to rent a truck or rent a trailer, well, that's a benefit for the owner, particularly since, as he said, he's a seasonal business. Is it ancillary to the business? Yes. Is it subsumed within the D2? I believe it is. If the board wanted to consider it a different business for some reason, I think that the proofs are on the record that show that we meet the special reasons, the positive and the negative criteria that would allow you to grant that. But I would say let common sense prevail. This is ancillary to what's there now. You've recognized it. There's going to be a mention of it on the record for future use, future boards. And I think that from a planning perspective, that should address the matter. Chairman, I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Oler, did you have any additional questions?
I don't. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate your staying by. Let's take a moment to open the comment section to the public. Anyone who would like to speak for or against this approval of this project may do so. Seeing none, we'll close that portion. So, Mr. Oler, what we'd like to do is to entertain a motion, right, to approve the application, but with the conditions that you're going to outline for us.
So in the event there's a motion to approve the application for the expansion of their pre-existing uses with the U-Haul use as a accessory use to the garden center, there were some conditions. One would be modify the stormwater drainage plan to the township engineer's satisfaction. Site lighting would be dark sky compliant, angled downward, so no light spillage onto adjacent properties. Modify the plans to include a chart calculating the total coverage areas, both existing and proposed, in square footage. Remove all of the encroachments from adjacent lots, and to prohibit parking along that right-of-way between lots 16 and 17. Okay, so the U-Hauls would have to find a home on lot 16. Okay.
And are our professionals comfortable with the conditions as Mr. Oler has outlined them? Did we leave anything out?
No, I think he covered everything. Thank you.
Mr. Burr?
Yes, I agree with all those conditions.
Okay, thank you. So we're good?
That would be that, yes.
So I would like to make a motion to approve the application with the conditions as we've just been outlined by Mr. Oler.
I will second that.
And Mrs. Amin will second the motion. And Ms. Probst, we're going to need a roll call vote. Yes.
Woodeli?
Yes.
Mrs. Amin?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Ms. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski?
Yes.
Ms. Wiseman?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Sullivan, thank you. Thank you to your clients. Appreciate it.
John, I will need the transcript to finalize the resolution. Okay.
You want to take a quick 5 minutes? Or you wanna go right
Let's go another hit. Let's start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Too many places in my notes it says see transcript, so, yeah. Thank you.
We're going to power through for a little bit and then take a break later. We gotta get that. Go.
Yeah. Jasmine and julep.
Yeah, for Dan. I wasn't at the last one.
Yeah, that's.
Right.
They gotta live.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know you could. I had no idea. $10 an hour? You just walk in and say,
So we're just allowing some time for everybody to get their ducks in a row, so to speak. And while we're doing that, because we would like to continue and then take a break, maybe in about half an hour. I'm sorry. That's that. All I'm saying was we're just allowing you some time to get everything organized, and then in about a half an hour or so, we will take a break. But we wanted to keep going, not lose too much time.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the public. My name is Michael Silbert. I'm an attorney at Murphy, Schiller & Wilkes, located in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant this evening, Non-Realty Holdings, LLC. Thank you for having us back for a continuation of our application for preliminary and final major site plan approval, use variance relief, and related C variance relief and design waivers for the proposed climate-controlled self-storage facility at 360 Milltown Road, identified on your tax maps as Block 165, Lot 2. Before I go on, I just wanted to confirm if I can, there were a number of members, Ms. Probst and Ms. Oler, that were absent at the first hearing, and I just was wondering if those members that weren't present, if they can just indicate to me so I have an idea if they were able to review the transcripts and or watch the YouTube video from the prior hearing.
I have received, Mr. Franco has not been able, I'm sorry, Mr. Franco has not been able to provide an affidavit.
If you want to put on the record, if you did watch
Oh,
it.
I have not.
Have not, okay. Thank you. Thank you. And then I don't know, in my notes, I had Mr. Gajewski. I don't read.
I did.
You did, okay. Thank you. Okay.
I just want to point out that unless you conclude this evening, he still has time to do that, to vote whenever we do conclude.
Mr. Roller, thank you. I'm hoping I can, but we'll see. But that's certainly the goal on our end. So thank you. So as the board will recall, it's been some time since our initial hearing. That was all the way back in mid-March. So I'd like to just briefly reorient the board to this application. So just to quickly summarize, the applicant's proposing to construct an approximately 85,000 square foot 4-story self-storage facility on the property. Will contain approximately 227 storage units on the northern end of the subject property. The overall property size is 6.4 acres, and it is located in the township's C3 office and service zone. Property currently contains a one-story, approximately 17,700 square foot research and development facility occupied by Avanos Inc. It also contains a direct air capture pilot facility that is operated by Avanos. That was the subject matter of a planning board application back in 2025. Project is proposing a financial condominium arrangement, a financial subdivision, if you may, not a subdivision in the formal land use sense, but we provided in our submitted plans where we think that the financial subdivision line will go between the two private parties, the applicant and the property owner. So the self-storage facility would be located on proposed Unit A, or contemplated Unit A, and the existing Avanos facility would remain on contemplated land Unit B. In terms of the relief sought, the application requires the following variances. There is a D1 use variance being sought for a self-storage facility in the C3 zone. Self-storage is not a permitted use in the zone. There's also a C2 variance for the number of stories proposed, where the ordinance permits a maximum of 3 stories. The applicant is seeking relief to permit 4 stories on the property, given that the proposed basement counts as a story under the township's ordinance. Applicant is also seeking a D4 variance for floor area ratio of 36.8% or 0.368, where 30% or 0.3 is permitted in the zone. And funny enough, as it came up in the last hearing, the applicant is seeking a potential D1 use variance for multiple principal structures and uses on a single lot, which we are prepared to address tonight through the testimony of our professional planner, should the board determine that relief is required. We're also seeking additional relief in connection with landscaping, foundation plantings, tree replacement, loading spaces, parking and loading locations, loading space areas and dimensions, and then there's some relief being sought with respect to existing signage that was missed from the prior application before the planning board, as well as some new relief in connection with proposed freestanding signage in connection with the self-storage facility. There was another variance noted at the last hearing, which we'll address, regarding the emergency fire access stabilized turf area. With respect to FAR, and we'll touch on this very shortly in our architectural testimony, but I wanted to remind the board that the applicant very deliberately designed the building so that floors 1 through 3 would be compliant with the township's floor area ratio requirements, and that the floor area overage is truly attributable to the basement level, which again is not visible to the public. Building height is 40.57 feet, or proposed to be 40.57 feet, which complies with the 45-foot maximum height permitted in the zone. We're also compliant with respect to impervious coverage at a proposed impervious coverage percentage of 36.6, which is approximately just over half of what's permitted in the zone for the property. So again, all of these representations are made in furtherance of the board's evaluation as to whether the site is particularly suitable for the proposed use, and as well as whether the site can accommodate the proposed FAR overage. On May 24th, 2026, we presented the testimony of 2 expert witnesses. The applicant presented the engineering testimony of Mr. Robert Michello of Gladstone Design. He provided detailed testimony regarding the site plan, existing site, proposed site layout, setbacks, building dimensions, and the anticipated relief. He was subject to questions from the board, members of the public, and I believe we've concluded his testimony unless the board would like to hear further testimony from Mr. Michello. He is here this evening. The applicant also presented the traffic testimony of Corey Chase of Dynamic Traffic. Mr. Chase testified that the self-storage facility generates a maximum of only 14 trips during peak hours. He testified that if the applicant were to put a permitted use on the property to generate the same level of traffic that's anticipated with the proposed self-storage facility, which does trigger a D4 variance, In comparison, a 6,500 square foot office building or a 3,000 square foot medical office building is projected to generate the same level of traffic as the proposed self-storage facility for this application. Likewise, board have the opportunity to question Mr. Chase, and the public comment portion with respect to Mr. Chase's testimony was closed. He is not in attendance this evening. So I'm hoping, as I represented to Mr. Oler, that we will be able to conclude our application. We have 2 remaining expert witnesses, and I'm also joined this evening by the principal. I intend to call our architect, Susan DeHart, who will address the building's architectural design, internal layout, and address the professional questions in the professional reports. And I'm also joined by our professional planner, Kristen Shepard, of Capone Planning and Consulting, who will provide the planning justification and proofs for the variance relief that we're seeking. Before I call our first witness, there were several open items from the prior hearing that the board asked for us to resolve. One of them was with respect to the fire marshal's review memo, which had to do with the fire access area, the stabilized turf area to the east of the proposed building. I was able to contact Mr. Scalera, and I had him put in writing my satisfaction and great appreciation for Mr. Scalera making himself available so that I could address this to the board this evening. We were able to come up with a compromise that the stabilized turf area would be increased from 20 feet as it was currently proposed to 23 feet. Mr. Scalera originally requested a 24-foot wide stabilized turf area for emergency services and vehicles. So we were able to come up with that 23-foot number. So if this application is approved, we would increase the stabilized turf area to total 23 feet in width.
And just to help me remember,
Yes,
that access to the stabilized turf was meant to be behind the building, but adjacent to the railroad tracks that are back there and the kind of berm that holds them up. So now are you making your building smaller? How are you getting the extra?
Yes, so the space between the building was 23 and a half feet approximately. The space between the building and the property line setback, we proposed originally a 20-foot wide stabilized turf area. So we're just going to extend the stabilized turf area the full width, and that seemed satisfactory to Mr. Scalera. What I have, which if I may, because this came up at the last hearing, I did want to get something in writing from him.
Sure.
If I would be permitted to pass out email confirmation correspondence with Mr. Scalera, and if I can mark it as an exhibit.
Mr. Oler, are you comfortable with that?
I think so, yeah, let's see it, and it'll be A4.
A4, and we can entitle it Email Correspondence between Fire Marshal and Applicant's Counsel dated May 28th, 2026.
Just to not to clarify, but to reiterate what I said, there is no extent or reduction in the size of the building. You're just going to stabilize turf on an existing piece of land that was already there.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that actually makes sense. I had represented in the last meeting that we did review the plans with Mr. Scalera prior to our submission to make sure there was adequate space. And I think that there was a miscommunication about the size of the stabilized turf area. We got the setback, the building setback correct. Stabilized turf area needed to be increased, and I think we were able to address that adequately.
Okay, thank you. While we're passing that information around, Mr. Burr, did you have any comment that you'd like to, or question about the stabilized turf area that will be, thank you, behind the building?
Thank you. Well, this is the first time I'm seeing or hearing about this, Mr. Chairman, but.
Yes.
No, I guess just as a point of clarification for maybe Michael, was this as a result of a meeting with the fire official, or, and I'll let, oh, you have your mic.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It was just a discussion over the phone.
So I met with Mr. Scalera during an informal conceptual review. and we had discussed it then. We had our March 24th hearing. This topic came up, and I wanted to immediately address this with Mr. Scalera following the conclusion of our March 24th meeting. So this culminated into phone correspondence with Mr. Scalera, where I had asked him to please look at the site plan, and I laid out my proposal to increase the stabilized turf area from 20 feet to 23 feet. Mr. Scalera called me and left me a voicemail after reviewing the plans and indicated that he was okay with the proposal. So didn't want to come to the board with a voicemail, so I asked him to put it in writing. And I think that I'll have additional requirements to get that in a revised fire review memo during post-approval compliance, should this be approved. But I wanted to come back to the board with something saying that we did address this, and hopefully we can get that in a revised fire review memo.
And so an updated plan has not been prepared yet but as I understand, you said there's 23 and a half feet setback now proposed from the rear of the building to the property line, and 23 of that 23 and a half feet would be this fire lane?
Correct.
Okay. And at the last meeting, and I don't know that it was resolved, but I think one of the board members had requested or asked a question of if there was space to the rear of the building to accommodate some additional landscaping. In this current scenario, the answer would be no, but I'm curious, as we move through tonight's hearing, if there's an opportunity to shift the building a little bit, reorient the building a little bit to not only accommodate this wider fire lane, but also maybe some landscape plantings in there, something to keep in mind.
We were going, I was going to address landscaping momentarily because I was able to make some progress on that end. We don't anticipate providing landscaping to the rear of the building since it abuts the railroad. It's truly not visible. I think that it would be increased landscaping and enhanced landscaping is better served elsewhere on the property than abutting the railroad, in my opinion. Obviously, with this proposal, we wouldn't be able to increase landscaping behind the building. However, and I don't mean to interrupt if you have more questions, but there were a couple of landscaping items which I wanted to address.
Okay, before you do that,
Yes.
so we have 23 and a half feet. Why not just stabilize it all?
If it can be done, then we would be happy to do that, if it can be done.
And we're talking about, I know it's petty, but I'm saying you're going to measure out 23 feet and there's going to be 6 inches hanging over that you're not going to stabilize? I mean,
I would answer that to the no less than 23 feet, and to the greatest extent possible to utilize the entire setback. We'll utilize stabilized turf.
Okay, fair
I know
enough.
from an construction feasibility standpoint.
Yeah, and that might be the answer right there.
The idea was that 23 feet was supposed to satisfy.
Right, I understand.
The full width.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
Mrs. Amin, you have a
You know,
question?
I have a question. How, before, it was only 20 feet of space behind the building. Are you reducing the building or moving the building?
No, so allow me to explain that better. The proposed setback, the building setback, was, I believe, 23.5 feet. And within that building setback, we had originally proposed a 20-foot wide stabilized turf area in the event of emergencies, and we're increasing that to the full width of the building setback. So it didn't, my goal in speaking with Mr. Scalera was to hopefully not have to reconfigure or relocate the building, to see if we could work within the 23 feet and change between the proposed building and the property line.
And the fire marshal is fine with it?
I'm representing yes, and I'm hoping that the email correspondence evidences that. And look, we'll still, as a condition of approval, we'll have to still get an updated, we'll still have to get fire marshal sign off from the fire department, if you will. So it's not over, but I was just trying to evidence that we made progress on that front.
Mr. Vestio, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think the context is certainly important when you speak to the fire marshal, kind of to show him that the lane, 23-foot lane width is starting right at the face of the wall here. I mean, do you have anything protruding off your facade that's going to be fouling your?
We do, but I can confirm with our architect who's about to testify, but I don't believe so.
Okay, but I think certainly the context that a plan that our board engineer had mentioned, I think is really important, because this individual may be thinking a 23-foot wide lane, not realizing it's literally adjacent to the face of the building.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't have the ability, I don't have Mr. Scalera here to testify to that, but all I can say is he does have the site plan, so I did like very clearly explain, I certainly don't want to relocate the building if I do not have to. Can you work with this proposed accessway if we increase the stabilized turf a couple of feet to 23 feet? I'm representing it, I'm not under oath. That's the email correspondence I felt very fortunate to get in advance of tonight. So,
But according to your email, this was all done by voicemail, right? There was no direct conversation?
there was no direct conversation. So he left me a voicemail, wasn't able to reach him, and confirmed that this would be
Okay, so your representation is that you would accept the condition to stabilize the entire area from the rear of the building to the rear yard?
yes.
Right?
And of course, just like any other approval, we still have to get the fire division to approve the final plan anyway before they would ever consider issuing a building permit should this be approved. So,
Ms. Sarmat, did you have a question as well?
I think a little bit of it ended up being covered, right? I think I was going to ask the same question Mr. Oler just asked.
You just had that look about you, like you had a question, that's why I'm asking.
Well, and part of it is, I think the same questions that Mr. Vesio asked, you know, how much was explained to Tom Scalera? Was it, we don't know the context of what was proposed to him. You know, Mr. Burr and I were not involved in any kind of meeting to go through that or over it. So we don't have the benefit of what both ends of the conversation were. We can see there was a confirmation, but we don't know how it was posed, the particulars, if he had a plan in front of him, if the middle, and the other thing is the site plans right now show a 23-foot setback. So if 23 and a half was what they were trying to achieve, they'd absolutely have to move the building because it's an impossibility at this point to do 23 and a half when you have a 23-foot setback showing on your site plan right now.
Okay, so then it's only 23.
It's only 23 because that's what the plans are showing unless they're wrong or unless.
So they would stabilize the whole thing, is what you're saying?
Correct. And I guess the other consideration is if they did need 24 feet, they would have to move the building and.
Or make the building smaller.
Correct. Or if they wanted to put if Mr. Scalera wanted a separation between the building and the roadway, if that ended up being a condition, they'd either have to shift the building, make it smaller, or potentially even seek a front yard setback variance because they are kind of close to that. So I think there's a lot of factors that may or may not have been considered, and we're just not privy to them because we weren't part of that conversation.
So we're not trying to impeach your testimony, Mr. Silberg. We're just trying to elaborate and find out the missing pieces that we don't have in front of us right now. So what we're really saying is that at this moment in time, although we accept your representation that the conversation took place, we need more detail in order to accept this as a solution.
well, at the end of the day, Mr. Chairman, the fire marshal's going to have to. We can't get a building permit.
No, I understand that, but the building permit comes after the approval, and right now we're not certain on what ground we're standing in order to even propose an approval at this point.
So then why don't we say that we'll comply with the fire marshal's review memo? I expect that he would update it in accordance with his conversation. So I'm expecting a revised fire review memo.
Yes.
Nonetheless, we would have to comply. So if he requires 24 feet, then we'd have to come back and seek an amended site plan approval.
Right, I think that's fair. But Mr. Oler, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I think we should just understand what you're saying here and move on to architect issues, because I think you have a lot of architect issues that haven't been addressed. And I think when you address those, you may end up redesigning the building, and then maybe there's a 24-foot lane, right?
Just one last thing, I guess if it is being considered, is the driveway, there is a driveway setback requirement in the township code
Yes.
of 10 feet. So I think, just so the board is aware, and I don't know if it came up at the last hearing, I can't remember. Yeah, I think that you'd be having to seek that regardless of how wide it is. In the present condition or the proposed condition, it still needs a setback variance for that.
In the back, you're saying?
In the back for the
Right.
emergency drive, it's still a driveway.
And is that considered a driveway, even though it's only meant to be emergency access in the back of the
In my
property?
opinion, yes, the way the code reads, driveway can be anything. It can be, a driveway to someone's house, it can be a driveway, the intensity of them differ.
Okay.
But this would be an emergency driveway, in my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. Silbert?
Why don't we move on with our architectural testimony, because that certainly could drive, our plan forward with that.
So, Mr. Silbert, with your indulgence, I think now, since we kind of burned through a
That's fine.
few extra minutes, why don't we take a 10-minute break, then reconvene with your architect's testimony? Would that be acceptable to you? Very good. So let's adjourn for 10 minutes, and we'll reconvene in 10. Ms. Probst, would you like to do a roll call for us?
Chairman Kulak?
Here?
Mr. Waddell?
Here.
Mrs. Amin?
Here.
Mr. Franco?
Here.
Ms. Rose? Mr. Gajewski?
Here.
Ms. Wiseman?
Here.
Mr. Vesio?
Here.
Mr. Colucci?
Here.
Mr. McNella?
Here.
Mr. Aller?
Here.
Mr. Burr? Mr. Armad?
Here.
And we have everyone.
Everyone's back.
Everyone made it back. Thank you. Mr. Silbert, thank you. You may continue. Do you need some microphone assistance? We have experts available.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would just, based upon what happened prior to our recess here, I would like to bring up my first witness, Ms. Susan DeHart, who is our professional architect. I believe she was sworn at the first meeting, but Mr. Oler.
Yeah, we'll do it again, just to be sure, yeah. So would you raise your right hand, please?
You can even go up to the podium wherever you're comfortable.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And your full name, please?
Susan D. Hart,
Can you spell your last name?
D-E-H-A-R-T.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. I don't know if there's anything else I need to do on my end to get the screen back up so that I can present our exhibit. I don't know if because we were in
Well,
recess.
yeah, I'll see if we can get you some help. Suzanne? It's okay.
Oh, no worries. I'm actually now having trouble getting the computer screen back up. While we're getting our technology squared away, Mr. Hart, if you can just provide your credentials and professional background to the board in the field of architecture.
Yes, I'm a principal with USA Architects in Somerville. I have a Bachelor of Architecture from Virginia Tech, and I've been licensed in the state of New Jersey since 2009.
License is in good standing?
Yes.
Have you testified in front of zoning boards and planning boards in the state of New Jersey prior to this evening?
I have most recently in Somerville and in Morris Township.
Have you testified in front of this board before?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well,
Well, welcome then. We're happy to have you, and we accept your credentials.
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hart, did you prepare the architectural plans that are before the board this evening?
I did, yes.
And if you will give me one moment, I'm going to get the rules on the screen here. Mr. Hart, these architecturals were previously submitted to the board and they're on file with the board?
Yes.
No changes to the plans we're about to?
Correct, no
on the
changes.
screen? All right. And you'll just tell me if you want me to zoom in or zoom out. Mr. Oler, do you want to mark this as an exhibit?
No, this is the same set that we have in our packages, correct?
Yes, Mr. Oler.
It's not necessary.
Okay. So, Mr. Hart, why don't you start off with what we're looking at here and
Absolutely. So you have concept plans on sheet A1, and then we also have concept elevation and perspective views on sheet A2. I think maybe it makes sense to look at the plans first. So, as previously noted, the overall proposed building square footage is approximately 85,000 square foot. So we're proposing one level below grade, which we're calling a basement, and then 3 levels above grade. Each floor is approximately 21,000 square feet. So the main entry to the building is on the southeast corner of the first floor. So that's the plan in the center of the page. And that has a glass entrance that faces the main driveway, clearly the main entry point. Off of that lobby, we've got an office where staff will be present during business hours, as I understand. There's a single-user toilet, which is available for use by anybody who has access to the building. We've got an egress stair, and then there's 3 elevators here. It's my understanding that subsequent to the submission of this plan, it was determined that we only need 1 elevator from a functional standpoint, and from a code standpoint, that's also the case. So it's likely that we may reduce the number of elevators in the building moving forward.
Is there any specific reason other than meeting the minimum that you would choose to reduce the number of elevators? I mean, from a service perspective, I've got 4 floors. How many units?
We're showing 305 in these plans total. Also, the units that are shown here, it's important to note that's a placeholder only. The sizes and the quantity may shift once a management company comes in and looks at what's required in this area
Sure.
and how to best serve the community.
I'm just, it's your building, it's your design, it's your plan. I'm just wondering out loud, if I've got 400 and something storage units, if 1 elevator is going to be enough when I originally proposed 3. So it's up to you guys.
Would you say that the consideration to the number of elevators is not necessarily based upon the size of the building, but the amount of traffic that the building generates?
I would. How many people are likely to be in the building at the same time would be my opinion. But once again, we would investigate that further. I guess my point is just that 1 is all that's technically required, so you might see a reduction there, perhaps down to 2 even. And
Okay.
I think that's something that needs to be discussed further as we move forward.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you.
So then the EMR there next to the elevators is a mechanical space. And if we go all the way down to the other end of the building, we have another egress stair and an electrical room. Everything else on the floor plan are storage units of various sizes. If you look at the basement floor plan and the 2 upper levels, they're very similar. The only difference is that we've introduced a corridor along the front of the building for circulation. On the first floor, we do have 21 units that are directly accessible to the outside. That's along the plan's south side at the front of the building. And I believe there was testimony the last time there was a concern that vehicles might enter those units, and that's not the intent at all. The doors are only 6 feet wide, and there is a sidewalk that runs along the front of the buildings.
So a vehicle cannot pull up to those roll-up doors on the exterior of the building?
Correct. You could pull up to the sidewalk for, ease of unloading, but you can't back right up to the building.
Can you talk about perhaps the design intent of providing units in this manner?
From a design perspective, it makes the most sense to have those units be on the front of the building, whereas aesthetically, I could understand a question around that. I think from a functional and site access standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. And also, we were talking about the challenges with the access at the back of the building. So clearly, we wouldn't want to try to have, a drive-up unloading area back there.
And as far as is the point of these types of roll-up doors, self-storage facilities, we've seen a number of self-storage facilities across the state and the country that provide the opportunity for vehicles to pull up directly to the units and even potentially access the units. These units don't do that per your testimony. So what is the purpose of this? Is it for convenience or?
Correct. It's for convenience, and the roll-up door is just the easiest way to get a larger opening that allows you to maybe unload some larger belongings.
So it could be, would you anticipate, I know you're not the operator, but would you anticipate that somebody who leases this storage unit may pay a premium for the convenience factor of having this on the ground floor?
I would imagine so, yes.
Okay. And is this atypical, or have you seen this design before?
Personally, I have not seen it one way or the other with respect to backing up. I can't comment on that.
But you've seen ground floor storage units with the roll-up doors? Okay.
Well, as you're continuing your testimony, have you designed similar self-storage facilities and designed them with roll-up doors, or is this your first design?
We have.
Well, I'm asking you personally.
Me personally, I have not, but the
Okay.
company certainly has.
But your firm has?
Yes.
Okay. And aesthetically, from your perspective, you're designing the building, and then the setting of this building is somewhat unique in that we're across from the 4-H fairgrounds, a variety of parkland and so on. So despite the industrial use next door and some of the buildings being not so much out of the scope of the neighborhood, but just a little outside, this one is going to stand out because of the roll-up doors, contrasting with the parkland across the street. So from a design perspective, I'm just questioning what I'm trading off, and Mr. Silbert seemed to intimate that perhaps it's a premium price that the operator might be getting for these units versus those which are less accessible. But do you have a perspective on it?
I do. Well, first of all, I grew up in Bridgewater, so I'm really familiar with this area. I drive down the road all the time. Actually, the first building I ever designed on my own was the toilet pavilion at North Branch Park.
Okay.
So I have a lot of pride around that. But yeah, I'm very familiar with the spot and I understand the concern. But I also think the roll-up doors are selected in a color, like theoretically they'd be selected in a color to match this facade adjacent. And you really wouldn't notice it unless it was actively in use. So the thought process is to try to make those blend and stand down as much as possible.
And are you even taking into account, are you considering the buffering that would be present on the property too, in terms of noticing it? Are you saying you wouldn't notice it unless you were on the site, if you were on the street, based upon the proposed landscaping?
Absolutely, landscaping would certainly help to shelter it as well, but I do think that just having a good material color match would make it stand down quite a bit.
And you may have already provided this, or a lot of, the board finds very helpful drawings that show the perspective from, let's say, Milltown Road, from the north end of the building, the south end. The rear end, we're not sure if it's going to be visible to anybody, but oftentimes the perspective of those drawings helps us understand the aesthetics of the design and the function. And so I just wanted to leave that out there.
Sure, if the board will leave an open mind with respect to the proposed exterior roll-up doors on the ground floor, I can certainly have Mr. Moscello present the originally proposed landscaping design and speak directly to whether or not the proposed buffering would provide adequate shielding of these exterior doors, assuming that the board was concerned about the appearance from Milltown Road, as well as speak to any enhanced landscaping improvements that he would propose to address the board's fears with respect to, the impact that ground floor roll-ups could have to the surrounding area.
Okay. Please continue.
Thank you.
So with respect to the floor plans, are there any other?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Amin has a question for you.
Sorry.
I have a question regarding the ground floor. Those doors, how big are the doors?
The doors are 6 feet wide.
Uh-huh.
The height, I would have to verify looking at this. I think we're at about 7 feet.
7 feet, and they are roll-up doors?
Yeah, they're coiling roll-up doors, yes.
Okay.
Are they similar to the
that-
roll-up doors that would be found in the interior?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The reason I'm asking this question is there a demand for people to have exterior doors so they can go in?
I do think there is. I actually thank you for asking that because I was going to mention that earlier. In addition to being able to charge a premium, I do think there's a demand for that, and maybe
Did you do a study to determine the demand?
personally, USA Architects did not do a study.
Do you have someone who's going to testify with respect to demand?
We can have somebody testify with respect to demand. The principal is here who has a pretty large range of experience with respect to self-storage. I think, so I think that answers you. And if the board wants additional testimony regarding the demand or
Well, I can tell you with the last two
yes,
self-storage facilities that were approved by this board, neither of which had roll-up doors, by the way.
yes,
There
exterior
was
roll-up doors.
exterior roll-up doors. There was testimony with respect to demand.
Yes. So if the board would want to hear that, we could provide that. Mr. Oler was gracious enough to provide me with a copy of a resolution from a prior application, which I didn't get to address, and maybe I'll address that at a later time. But I did note that it seemed like that application was modified so as to remove the roll-up doors. However, my understanding is from the prior applicants that tried to obtain approval with exterior roll-up doors, that they were seeking, that those proposals did not have sidewalks, that the doors were intended to have vehicles drive up to it. So we have a little bit of a unique proposal, and certainly are not trying to set a precedent where the board approves this application, should they approve it, with roll-up doors when they previously denied the other, they didn't deny, they approved the other applications without it. I'm simply highlighting that there is a difference and a uniqueness to this proposal that wasn't, to my knowledge, proposed to the board. So I'm asking the board to at least consider it with a fresh perspective, particularly if we are able to satisfy any type of visual concerns that the board might have with respect to Milltown Road and the bucolic nature of the properties across the street. So noted on testimony of demand, and I'm hoping that we can minimize the impact through additional testimony. So,
Were any options explored without the roll-up doors on the exterior?
to my knowledge, they were not explored, and if the board comes to the conclusion that there is no way for the applicant to mitigate the board's concerns, whether that has to do with the use of the storage units or the impact to the surrounding properties or to just the visual impact of it, then we would explore it. But it's very important, having spoken to the applicant, and he can certainly testify to this. It's a very important feature of the project. You know, I don't want to backtrack. I want to focus on the architecture, but we tried to come in here, and obviously the board's going to have suggestions. We really tried to come in here with our best foot forward. I know a lot of applicants come in and they seek way more than what they can get, and they try to play this game with the board, a trade-off where, you know, you make these changes or you reduce the size, et cetera. I'm not lying when I say that we tried to come in here with something that we thought would be palatable to the board, to the public right off the bat, not asking for too much, asking for something that we felt was appropriate for the size, the impervious coverage, the height, and we're still asking for those roll-up doors. Again, if we can mitigate the impacts of them, we will certainly do that. If the costs to mitigate them are extreme, it's a business decision that, you know, the principal can determine what the cost and the trade-off is to try to accommodate the board with respect to its concerns, if the board would allow us to keep those exterior features. That was our thought process.
So you don't need to respond to this, but I'm going to pose the question sort of generally. Has anyone in the architectural world said, I wonder if I can come up with a better door, a better appearing door than a typical metal roll-up door that would operate the same way, give you the same functionality, but it would look different or better? And I don't know if it's true, but just, I'm going to throw that out there for future consideration.
Certainly, and I'll let Mr. Hart speak to that, but that's why this opportunity that we have to get feedback and for you to hear our feedback, that's why it's an important feature. Obviously, when I started this hearing this evening, I was hoping to conclude our testimony, but hearing feedback from the board gives us the opportunity to respond appropriately. Sure. And so if as we move on with our presentation, if we get the idea that there's a clear problem with the material or the style of the roll-up door, we would certainly try to address those concerns. So if I could turn it back to you, Mr. Hart. You had touched upon something regarding the floor plan. So the unit count is not set in stone. The operator eventually might determine different sized units.
Correct. So the overall quantity may change, but the locations of the units within the building, the egress corridor, and the entry points would all be the same.
So one of the concerns about, like, that the board has had in the past about combining units is turning this into more of a warehouse type of building, right?
One of the conditions in the prior resolution was that it cannot be used as a warehouse operation, which of course we would, it would be in our standard lease anyway, but we would agree for that to be a condition of approval.
Well, you wouldn't have the ceiling heights, but you could have the width. Like, what if they combined your entire first floor into one unit?
in that, I believe in that resolution for the application that just sought an extension of their approval, I believe there was a condition in there that required that the units not be combined. So if the board has a concern above and beyond just the ordinary condition requiring that it can't be used for warehousing, then I wouldn't see any reason why we couldn't agree to that condition. It's reasonable that you wouldn't want to see 10 units combined. So I think what Mr. Hart was just explaining is that you see a certain number of units proposed and a certain size units. You're talking about combining units, which I guess is certainly related. I'm just trying to represent that if you see a 10 by 20 interior unit, that might not be the unit size. They might do, and correct me if I'm mistaken, it might be 12 by 20.
Right, and the quantities of each might differ too. I think that's really what we're driving at. Yeah, there's going to be a mix of
From a structural point of
different
view, your building will support the flexibility of sizing those units differently.
Correct.
And we're asking simply that you consider our previous request to eliminate the possibility that somebody might create a kind of mini warehouse effect and
Yes.
running a business out of there that.
It's already we're agreed, 100%. In addition, another condition that was found in the prior resolution that I looked at was that, a lessee of a storage unit may not operate it as, they can't stay there overnight.
Right.
They can't operate a business out of there. Actually, I don't know if you can confirm or deny this, but it was indicated to me that the storage units don't have any outlets.
Correct. There's no power within each individual unit.
So that can be a condition as another safeguard to
I
prevent.
think we're all on the same page. We're just having a dialogue about what the impact of having that flexibility would be and how we might limit that flexibility somewhat so as to achieve our goals and still let the business have the flexibility that they need.
Mr. Chairman, we could
Please.
stipulate that they can't exceed 300 square feet.
Well, I was getting there, yeah, there needs to be a maximum size,
I mean, it
right?
allows you configuration, but we
Right.
set a limit of 300 square feet.
Units cannot exceed 300 square feet.
Sorry, but we need you to either come up, or you guys can take 5-minute
Please.
break, whatever you want to do.
Yes, Mr. Natale, come up, please.
And I'm going to need to swear you in before you start to talk, so would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you'll give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help
I
you?
do.
And your name for the record, please?
Joseph Natale.
Tally. Okay, so we were just talking about a 300-foot maximum size unit.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It's tough listening to things and you can't respond back there. And I want to first start with, there is absolutely, in the industry, zero market for 10-foot ceilings and wide floors. So economically, that's unfeasible. Number two, these are not Legos. I want to make sure that everyone understands, not being in the industry, that they're not like, you can't move a door, you can't take down a wall. And the industry, thirdly, and most importantly, is the reason why this is a placeholder is because the market is going smaller, 5x5s, 5x10s. People don't want the 10x20s. That's the least desirable. The bigger ones are the least desirable. And again, it couldn't be industrial ever. So as far as limiting the square footage, not a problem. As far as limiting the height, not a problem. The doors, changing the doors on the outside to accommodate aesthetically between plants and making the doors the same color. First of all, any door that is the same color of the building aesthetically, you're going to have to really be really close to notice it. And secondly, the door, I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you so much, because I have several of these going on. It's the first time I had questions. If there's a door out there that is more pleasing to the board, to Bridgewater, no problem, zero issue with accommodating that. As far as the doors outside, there's a massive market for convenience. There's not enough of them. They don't have to, let's say there's a gate. They get their key, the gate lifts up until 9 o'clock at night. They don't have to go in the building. No concern being dark. It's dark a couple of months a year, 4:30, 5 o'clock. People want to pull up. It's lit. They want to walk on the sidewalk. and they want to utilize that facility in that manner on the outside. So it is, yeah, people could say, and somehow it's a criticism, there's a premium. There's a premium, but they cost more to build from the outside, and people want them. There's a market for it. If there wasn't a big market for it, we wouldn't do it. We just put them on the inside, and it helps us with square footage. But I want to put everyone's mind at ease. Ceiling height, there's nothing industrial about it. There's no market for it, zero. And secondly, the market is looking for less units. So Public Storage is the management company, the largest in the world, that we've employed to do our latest project, to manage our latest project out in Cranford, New Jersey on 16 Commerce Drive. There was another question before, as far as, you had a question. Oh, elevator.
Right.
That was an error. The 3 elevators was designed in error. When we saw that, we corrected it. I have the family has a 145,000 square foot building being built with 1,175 units, 1 elevator. Because there's so few people there at any given time, I've always used use the saying that there's only one industry that has less traffic than self-storage. That's a cemetery, with the exception of a holiday, right? So I hope I've answered some questions. I'm happy to answer any other questions while I'm up here, and I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to speak for a few minutes.
We appreciate your testimony, and thank you for offering your insight and flexibility to us. I think at this moment, would you prefer to continue with your architectural testimony?
I just have just a couple of questions for Mr. Natale, if I may, and then would like to go back to architecture. But Mr. Natale, you're in the self-storage business.
We are. The family is. My
Family
children,
is,
my adults.
and would you consider yourself to have above the knowledge of an average person with respect to self-storage? I just want the board to gauge your level of expertise.
I do. I do consider myself a professional in the industry. When you're building buildings from 80,000 to 145,000 and being designed and dealing with the largest companies and professionals in the world, let alone the country, yeah, I do. And I say that humbly.
And approximately how many projects are you involved with respect to self-storage?
Currently 7.
7 projects, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it?
That's
If
all.
there's any other questions, I'm happy to come back up again.
Great, thank you.
And thanks for the advice on the doors. We'll get back.
Mr. Chairman,
You're welcome.
Can I just ask 2
Oh,
questions?
please, Ms. Ahmed, you have a couple questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I wasn't looking at you, so I
It's
didn't.
easier to answer the questions up here than to sit back there.
Go. And I don't want to keep walk back and forth.
No, please.
Are the units that have the roll-up doors, are they climate controlled?
Everything is climate controlled,
So even those ones?
even outside.
Got it. Do you have any, are you currently operating or own any self-storage buildings that are, are already operating?
No, I don't at this point right now, because what we do is we build them and then have them managed by a professional organization with greater expertise than us. And then we make decisions 3 years down the road whether we keep them or sell them.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious because what you described about the convenience is convenient for some people, right? And it's exactly, in some cases, exactly what was prohibited in the other case, right? That if someone is using this unit as, a plumber or a contractor of some sort, right? And storing their tools or extra stuff, it happens all the time. They would love something where there's, they gate in and then they can get in till 9 p.m. and they can offload their stuff. And I was just asking if you currently operate any to see if that's ever been an enforcement issue. Because even if it's a condition of the resolution for the township and for the board, I guess my real question is how can it be enforced if management isn't enforcing it?
Well, it's very aggressively enforced.
Yeah,
So, and I say this respectfully to you as a professional planner, of course. There's a lot of scenarios. What if? 2 things I want to say. I think it's a little unfair to do a what if, although they're great questions, and there are possibilities. But I always say there's probabilities and possibilities. The probability is an accurate question, but the possibility, based on the lease, the cameras, 82 cameras per building to 115 cameras, it is so heavily enforced. We can go under certain provisions. We have the right to open the locker and check if we see anything that's an issue, and I mean anything. Without notice, with 24 hours notice, we can ask you to remove yourself and your locker, give it up, your self-storage unit or units. So it is very, very heavily enforced, and everything is so digital. The management company has a company that literally, if any sensor goes off after hours, after any hour, let's say 6 o'clock, someone leaves, we're open for another 3 hours, there is under visual camera, there are people that sit in the room that will call the police if they see any issue, any loitering, anyone trying to sneak someone in. It is heavily enforced. You really can't fool around. And people are asked to leave. Now, the other last thing I want to say to your point, and good points, is that how many doors do we have on the outside, please?
21.
21. 88,000 square foot building, approximately. Forgive me if I'm off a couple thousand square feet. And there's only 21 doors, and they could be 5 by 10s, 5 by 5s. It's a very, very small piece of the building.
It can't be 5 by 5, right?
Well,
They have a 10-foot width because the door access that you're.
but the doors are 6, so, well, did you design, I'm sorry, they're 10 feet wide on the outside.
They're 6 feet wide.
The doors are 6 feet, but the units are,
They are 10.
you might be right.
By 30, so yeah, I think there is a limitation for them.
Right, there is, but it's a very small ratio, a single-digit ratio of the building, and there's 49,000 people in, I believe, last count was 49,000 people in Bridgewater, 8,500 in Raritan, 18,900 in Somerville.
You have applications there, don't you?
There's a rumor. My family, my children do. Yes, we do. So we study the market to great lengths. There's programs that are not AI. They're just programs where you could plug in an address and see what the market demand and need is. And the reason why we're in Somerville, to your point real quick, is because out of all those apartments, those magnificent apartments, and the resurrection of that great job that they, renaissance that's taken place the last 25 years, there is 0 square footage in the borough of Somerville. So at the end of the day, there's a big need. That's why you've seen a surge of applications the last few years, because there's just nothing out there. On 202 towards Wegmans, there's those little garages, that little place behind the Spanish restaurant. That's it. So until hopefully the next couple of years of construction, there's a big need. And there's a massive need for the exterior. It's not just because of the 30-cent premium. I don't want anybody to think it's because of that. It's a need, and we just want to service it. So if we have to get better doors or colors, a specific color for you, or additional landscaping, we're happy to do it.
And I appreciate your testimony, and I think you provided some really good information that's very helpful to the board and answered my questions.
But there's another one coming.
There is one more coming because you've done such a good job. So in reviewing this application and reviewing, because we have a few other applications that have either been approved or pending, et cetera, I've had a good chance to kind of study.
I could give you the addresses.
What exists in Bridgewater currently, not what's proposed, but what exists currently. And it seems like majority of the 4 properties that are in Bridgewater right now all have exterior roll-up doors, are older, sort of older facilities. There's a range.
Big difference in those, yeah.
So that's my question is there a difference in what you are proposing and the demand for newer climate-controlled exterior access versus what exists in Bridgewater today?
I'm not as familiar with the older ones because, to be honest with you, they're antiquated. They're really bad. So I wasn't concerned about them. They have an issue with all this new construction that's going to be taking place, the evolution of the self-storage industry in the area. But I could tell you that the demand is for certain square footage, very minimum. We have 18, 20 doors. Forgive me what the number was. It escapes me. They want to know that it's climate controlled 100%, and that's it. So we purposely put a sidewalk there so we don't attract only contractors. We want to discourage that. That's why, or else why would I put a sidewalk, right? Put paving and maybe stick some more parking there. Parking wasn't required. We fulfill the need of the community based on the exterior. It's a very single-digit percentage of the overall square footage. So we kind of tried to find the balance To Michael Silbert's point, we tried to come in with our best foot forward, something that fits the community, something that fits the need of the public, and trying to find a balance. That's all I tried to do.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you so much for your time. I hope I didn't
We're
overstay my
going to take
welcome.
advantage of your being here just to ask if there are any members of the public that would have questions of you at this time. And Mr. Burr has a question as well?
I do as well.
Okay, we have a lot of questions, but we're going to, I'm going to just close the public comment because there's nobody coming up. And Mr. Burr, you wanted to go first, or would you like Ms. Rose to go first?
Ms. Rose can go first.
Did I understand you correctly to say that people are looking for smaller storage? Is there a possibility that in this building you would design it such that you don't have an issue with FAR? Can you make it smaller?
I can't because based on cost, I need to pencil from the financial side. There's a certain amount of square footage associated with the construction cost and the acquisition. That's just sheer economics. To make it smaller, they just don't work. I would love, for example, we would have loved to have gone, you want to say something?
Yes, Mr. Natale, you also said that you believe, based upon your research, that there's an incredible demand, a pent-up demand for storage units, and that while certainly like most developments, would you say, yes, there's a financial advantage to building a bigger building, but there's also a benefit to the public in the sense that you're meeting this pent-up demand by having more units?
That's exactly right. I couldn't have said it any better. Usually, typically, like I said, my most recent that's under construction right now is 145,000 square feet. I would love nothing more than to put up 125,000. That's like the sweet spot in the industry. This building is already 40,000 square feet under. We're at the point where, that's why I went into the ground, because I couldn't justify the square footage. So that's why we put one full level in the ground.
They're like, Sally, going into the ground is far more expensive than just expanding the footprint of the building.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Excuse me, what other sites did you look at in the township?
Well, what was available? We scanned the township. We actually retained the expertise of a very successful, he happens to be here this evening, Mr. Silbert Realty and Management Company, and pulled up everything that's available the last year or so, and that's what pointed us to this area. And what I also like about it is we're not bothering residential people. There's a research building next door that at one point was very industrial. It just fit the area, and with the exception of traffic is a negative. Thank God this is a digital industry, because if this was 8 years ago, I couldn't come here to this area. We couldn't go on Milltown Road, there's not enough traffic. You need a certain amount of traffic, and traffic today is not only driven by fueled up cars or electric cars, it's done by your phone digitally.
So just so I completely understand this, because I'm struggling with the FAR. I see an empty piece of land, and my expectation is that what's going to go on it fits. So when something comes before me and it doesn't fit, I have lots of questions.
Ask away.
I am.
I'm good.
So what I understand you to say, though, is that this building is this size because economically it cannot be any smaller.
When you're in a prestigious community as Bridgewater, the cost of land is, I'd say between here and the George Washington Bridge, top 10 communities in the state economically, per capita, et cetera, right? You have a great community here. I went to school here. Grew up in Raritan Borough, right on First Avenue, been here all my life. When you're looking at the value of land and going into better economic areas such as Bridgewater, it becomes, the value of the land justifies a price. And the price, the expense plus construction, simply equals the size of what you need in square footage to drive revenue to be able to justify the cost of being able to build that.
Does that have anything to do with what's on the other side of the railroad tracks?
No. No, I don't even know how to answer that, because on the other side of the railroad tracks, which is over 200 feet away, I believe there's condominiums that have been there for 30, 40 years.
I would believe would need the kind of storage that you're talking about.
Oh, there would be some customers, but that's a very, very, very small. If we get some business from there, we're talking about the community as a whole 3/4 of the way. The market is measured in the industry. The rule of thumb is everything is measured in a no further than 10-minute ride, including traffic, or a 3-mile radius. That's a standard in the industry. You could look that up. And within the 3-mile radius, we took that into consideration, how many people are there out of the 49,000. And we didn't go into Branchburg too much because that's being served by another facility on Route 22. So a lot of thought went into how do we get this square footage? Tremendous amount between cost, size, community, need. Everything went into consideration. That's why we're requesting this size. This was like the bare bone minimum. And we had to go into the ground to do it. 5 years ago, there was no such thing as going into the ground. Someone said, hey, listen, these are like submarines. There's no windows. Whether you press lower level or press level 3, you don't know where you're at if you're blindfolded. So we tested the water table. It passed muster. Engineering did a great job. And we determined that we can go X amount of feet down. We could fall under the 45-foot height restriction. I believe we're at 40 feet and a half. And we meet all the requirements, and we're a little over on the FAR. That's a fact. But I just wanted to tell you how we got there. I want to be able to answer that for you.
Because economically, what's driving the FAR is economics.
It's the cost of the land, cost of construction,
Right.
has to meet a certain amount of units to be able to justify putting anything up, whether it's an office building, medical, or...
I understand.
Is there also a public demand for
Huge.
storage space?
Are
you serving, what I want to make sure, Mr. Natale, is that, every site is site-specific. The numbers work differently from one site to another site, whether it's in Bridgewater or all throughout the state or country. What I want to ensure, and I'm asking you, is there a benefit that the proposed building is slightly above the permitted FAR? Is there a benefit to the community?
There is a massive benefit. I'll tell you why. They take the amount of people, the amount of rooftops, and that includes apartments, that includes condominiums, townhomes, as well as single-family and multifamily homes. 1 to 4 condos, everyone. And the statistics show in the industry that there's the community will need so many square feet of self-storage, and that's approximately 8 square feet per rooftop. Bridgewater is way under that. I believe at this point, including everything that's been approved and what's before you, it's about 3 feet per rooftop less, which means it's about 250 to 300,000 square feet underserved, which means, if I may, if another 300,000 square feet, I don't know if you know this, but out of the 300,000 square feet as an example, or this building at 88,000 square feet, only 74 to 75% is rentable square feet. So this community could use another 300,000 square feet on top of what we're proposing here this evening, on top of what has been approved the last 24 months, including Chimney Rock. So digitally, just by numbers alone, the community is underserved, and that's documented. Obviously, we're going to be back here another night. I could get a printout for you and tell you exactly where we got it, what program. You could look it up, and we'll have documentation for you to support the need of the community.
I don't mean to sidetrack your presentation, but I would like to hear from the Realtor at some point in time.
Understood. And Mr. Natale, I would like to, unless the board has more questions, I'd like to wrap up your testimony if I can. And
We did have one more question from Mr. Burr, I think, wanted to, and he deferred from Ms. Rose, so.
Okay, so
I don't know if your question was answered, or.
Actually, I had almost an identical question to Ms. Rose, but I do want to just ask a follow-up question to
Please.
that. Mr. Natale, when you first came up to the podium, you mentioned that the smaller units, the 5x10s, the 10x10s, I think you said they were more valuable.
They're more desirable.
They're more desirable.
The market asks for that. For example, there's a project in Findurn, Bridgewater Township, that Public Storage has that they used as an example. That's constantly full, constantly. And based on that, there's a certain percentage they look for based on success, 70%, 75%, 80%, all the way to 95%. That is so successful, and not the finest location going. People travel from the other side of Bridgewater. They have a list of people and addresses where their customers are. They even give us that data. That's why I like that company. So statistics are showing that the first units to go overnight are the smaller units, not the larger ones.
And the smaller units are 5 by 10, 10 by 10 in that
Right.
range?
Yeah, there's not that many at 10 by 20. Because what happens is the 10 by 20s are fairly large. And that's the person that is putting a couch in there and things of that nature. People aren't doing that. Usually empty nesters, downsizing. People getting engaged, living together, working from home, consolidating apartments. Hey, let me put storage, let me put my stuff and let's use your stuff. And next thing you know, until they break up or get married, it's 5, 6, 7 years before they even, it's like a gym membership, you can't get rid of it. So when people, the last thing you want is on a Saturday to take your child to soccer practice or baseball practice and say, hey, hon, let's take 4 hours and clean out that self-storage facility. They just don't. That's why they're always full. Some of those units have worthless items in there for years. All this information I'm giving you is specifically, there's data out there to support absolutely everything. I'm not just making it up. I can support it at any time.
I believe you.
Yeah, I just want to be able to make that clear.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
My
But that is the trend, smaller.
Okay. So my specific question is, and you heard some of the questions about the FAR variance.
Yes.
And how we can economize this building, make it smaller. The way your plan is laid out, or your architect's plan is laid out now, I think I heard at the first hearing there was 227 units. Tonight I heard 305. I'm sure that'll be clarified.
It's a placeholder.
At some point.
Yes.
But that 227 or 305 is based on a floor plan layout that is largely 10 by 20, 10 by 25, 10 by 30 sized units. And I know it's, at this point, it hasn't been planned out thoroughly. But if the valuable or the desirable units are the 10 by 10s, the 10 by 15s, the 5 by 10s, when this thing does get redesigned, you could be looking at twice, 3 times as many units.
It won't be
in
3
that
times.
building.
3 times is just, I'm a
Well,
numbers
and
guy.
I'm-
3 times is just economically.
I'm just thinking, if the testimony is 227 or 300 units, but they're the oversized units, and in reality, what you're looking to do is 10 by 10 units, now there's 500 units, why can't we bring that building down just a little bit? I mean, we heard the testimony, we're only at, 36 versus 30?
First, I want to say that that's just done as a placeholder. There's no way that they're going to be, I want to make that clear.
I understand
those
that, but
size.
that's why I'm asking the question, because they're all
I don't want to cut
oversized
you off, Brian.
units.
Yeah.
Can we economize this thing? You're still going to get that many more units out of the real plan. Maybe we can bring it down also in FAR to kind of bridge that gap. And maybe I'm not understanding.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
as an engineer, I can appreciate that very much, right? You're looking at numbers, right? As an operator, there's a minimum that we need, right? Only 74%, maximum 75% efficiency takes place. So when we're done with that, there is 25% minimum, depends on the shape of the building, that we're building and never going to make a dollar on. So now those units are so incredibly important and valuable that has to 74% to 75% has to pay the economics of operating that entire building. There's going to be 20,000 square feet to 22,000 square feet that's useless. So that's why we don't just say, let me see, let's go into Bridgewater at 88,000 square feet. We did the economics and backed into it to see, because I'd rather get an approval and be successful here than ask for something that I don't need. That was the purpose of, we'd love 125,000 and take 74 to 75% of that. We backed into the number. We didn't do it just to torture people over the FAR.
Mr. Natale, when you're backing into the number, and again, we'll have planning testimony, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but you've developed property all over the state for decades and decades, not just self-storage.
Correct.
if you're going in front of a
I
board.
wish it was self-storage. For the last 30 years, I wouldn't be here.
If you're going in front of the board and you're seeking to deviate from FAR or size, as a developer, aren't you taking into consideration traffic impact, height impact, impervious coverage impact? Are you considering as a developer the possible detriments to a proposal and to the surrounding area if you're going in over the FAR?
Everything gets taken into consideration.
And so
Absolutely
you
everything.
considered all of these factors in backing into this number.
100.
Just pick it out of the air.
We have to, because as a developer, you have to, before you take on, to get here respectfully, a developer, people don't realize it's a $250,000 to $300,000 cost to potentially hear a no. People don't realize the other side of the developer. For some reason, there's a connotation out there that everyone thinks a developer, oh my God, you know, it's like he found Bitcoin, or he has the Willy Wonka chocolate factory ticket, the golden ticket. It's not like that. We need to study every economic impact as well as impacts that you just mentioned, because we need to know the feasibility and what our chances are of getting something approved where it belongs. That's why we study everything that you just
So
mentioned.
based upon your assessment, and the board's going to have a different assessment, you're a developer. Based upon your assessment, whether the building is 0.36 FAR or 0.3 FAR, developer considering the property, you don't perceive any impact to the community with respect to traffic, material impact. You don't perceive any impact to height if the FAR is decreased, because if you heard Mr. Michello's testimony, the height's the same either way. Is that
Correct.
And you don't perceive any impact to impervious coverage if the FAR is changed?
Correct.
So I'm asking you, is the FAR differential, at least, is it on paper? Is that, in terms of impact or perceived impact to the community, is it just merely an impact?
Michael, everything's taken into consideration. One of the best things about the self-storage industry, other than the need in this situation, the traffic is not in the morning. There was a gentleman here, a neighbor, that was very concerned. I remember getting my license at 17 a long time ago and taking that same route that he's talking about and going under that train. That's been a disaster since the beginning of this community, right? No one was thinking. So that was one of the things I thought of why I liked about the property, because we're not harming the residents, no negative impact. We're enhancing the development. It's a great rateable for the community, and there's no traffic during impact time, which is the morning and the evening. So if we're not hurting the neighbors, we might upset a few deer and a few squirrel, but it's a big positive for the community, economically, socially, and there's a big need. And then we backed into it to see what we needed to do. We drafted a document and filled in the blanks. There's a formula, and it came out to be 88,000 square feet, because we walked away from it originally until we decided to go into the basement. Without that basement, we can't do it.
Mr. Natale, could you have designed a building that would have complied with the FAR, but would have increased impervious coverage, would have increased height, and would have increased impact, at least to your opinion, to the surrounding area?
Height for sure. Height for sure.
In impervious
Yes.
coverage, you could have increased
Oh, of
the
course.
footprint?
Of course.
But the FAR could have complied, right? Because
Correct.
you would have eliminated the basement?
Correct.
So there's
So the FAR, respectfully, the FAR, when it's above ground, and I'm just thinking of it how you would think of it, right? The FAR, underground, when you take into consideration that 25% of that building is underground, I felt what negative impact could it possibly be to the surrounding areas? It's underground. People won't even know unless they're customers. If I was asking for 60 feet, impervious coverage increase, FAR increase, I couldn't agree with you more. But being that it's underground and the impact, there's no negativity, we felt it was sound. It was a sound suggestion, and it was a sound product to bring to the table.
We'll have more. We'll have planning testimony to speak to the positive elements of this, speak to the positive elements to the relief that we're seeking to the community, as well as any potential negative detriments. But I think, Mr. Telly, you're doing a fine job explaining it to the board, your assessment of why you chose this FAR from a market demand, from a community demand, community benefit, as well as economics, penciling out the project based upon the.
By the way, I just want to close with one remark. If it wasn't a need in the community, we can't rent space that's not needed. So we wouldn't have thought of building anything here if there wasn't a need. The need drove us. We look at all the properties, we look at the properties, and we measure them to need. And then we proceed by the process of elimination, the economics, et cetera, and impact.
Tying this all back to how you ended up coming up here this evening, there was a question posed by Mr. Franco of the board, whether you would consider a size limitation on the size of the units, and Mr. Franco.
100%.
300 square feet.
Yeah.
So absolutely 100%.
That's
no
more than
problem
enough.
with that.
We can accommodate that without a question.
Mr. Vecchio, you had a question?
I do have a question, Mr. Natale. With the number of units, or you're saying there could be more units, a lot of the sort of expert testimony presented here, I think is kind of based on a certain number of units, right?
It's square footage, sir.
Right, but if you have 500 units, you have 500 customers. If you have 300 units, you have 300 customers. So I think we should kind of, or at least the board should kind of grant an approval based upon, if there were to be an approval, a number of units, right? Because more units equals more people, which then leads to more traffic. I understand it's a very low intensity use. More parking spots, right? More people in the building, maybe you do need a second elevator. So I think kind of those numbers, more units does mean more of other things too. And I think having sort of an upper limit, say, okay, we're looking for approval of X amount of units.
I hear you. I just want to respond to that, and I apologize if I just interrupted you. Please finish. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Okay. What people don't realize, unless you're in the industry, the smaller units are less visits. If we had larger units, there's more visits. The smaller units, where there's 5 by 10, the traffic, you would think numerically, you think in numbers, right? What you said was incredibly logical. If you're going to put 600 units in, it's going to be more, there's going to be more traffic, more people, and more customers than 400 or 500. The size of the unit dictates the turn, how many visits you will have to the location. So we can have a difference of about 150, as long as they're smaller units. The traffic difference is bare bone minimum. It's minimum, because that person, it's almost like a closet. They just throw stuff in there and they never visit it. I just wanted to mention that to you, because what you said was extremely logical. If I wasn't in the industry, I wouldn't have known that.
And the ITE, so when we heard the testimony of Mr. Chase at the last hearing, the ITE deliberately doesn't consider the number of units. It looks at the square footage. It's how the professionals in the industry try to estimate the intensity of the traffic impacts, and they look at hundreds of facilities. I mean, every land use code under the ITE is different. They look at 100 facilities, approximately X number of facilities, to generate the data, which was then presented to the board to estimate what the traffic volume will be for a self-storage facility of this size. So I don't have the testimony, because Mr. Chase didn't testify to what a smaller facility would look like. But if Mr. Chase did testify 14 trips during peak hour, if the building is decreased, then perhaps he would have testified that there'd be 13 trips during peak hour. But the impact to the community based upon the FAR overage is negligible from an FAR component, and ITE and Mr. Chase's testimony didn't consider the number of units. It looks at the square footage. Like a number of uses in the township, if you look at the township ordinance, a number of uses look at square footage, whereas some uses, like a restaurant use, looks under the township's code, looks at the number of seats to determine parking, and presumably parking is related to traffic. But that this is par for the course in terms of self-storage. It looks at square footage.
The one thing I would just interrupt you for a moment and add is that I'm sure when we have an opportunity to hear from your planner,
Yes.
then we'll learn more about the FAR variance, and specifically, we look at it from different perspectives, one of which is intensity of use, the visual impact of the building, And we've already outlined some of the things which you have described about the building, which may mitigate that. So it's really something that has yet to be determined by the board. The board is correct in expressing its concern, and if you're able to mitigate it in a way that's acceptable to the board, then you just stay with your original size proposal, and we see how it goes. In the meantime, Mr. Talley, thank you for your questions. I just want to make sure that we can squeeze in your architectural testimony because we are getting late in the hour.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Answer.
Just going directly to the professional memo prepared by Ms. Sarmad, one of the questions was what materials are used for the separation between and above units?
So the separation between the units is a metal system, so it's metal structure and then either corrugated or flat metal surface to the walls. And those stop, I want to say, about 2 feet shy of the structure above in order to allow the fire protection system to work properly.
All right. I want to turn to what I both are very important, but let's talk about the aesthetics because we do need a D1 use variance, potentially 2, and the board is certainly within its purview to want a building that complements the adjacent building on the property and the surrounding area, particularly in light of the fact that use variance relief under a D1 variance is being sought here. So can you walk us through color scheme, materials, inspiration behind your design, consideration of the adjacent building, so we can get going on the aesthetics?
Michael, is this photo that's on the screen part of our
Yes,
package?
it is. It's on the second sheet of the architecturals, A02. It's on the top left corner of the page.
Yeah, so this
Same thing we have.
Yes.
Okay.
on the upper left is looking directly at the entry lobby that you would see as you come in the main drive. So that lobby space and the elevator lobby on the second and third floor would all have storefront glazing. And then we do have some intermittent glass along the circulation paths on the second and third floor as well. Just, it helps with interior orientation, and of course, a little bit of daylighting is always nice.
Are you saying that those are real windows?
Correct.
Okay.
So the entire first floor is proposed to be brick veneer. The color that we're showing here is kind of a warm gray brown. And our palette inspiration was to go with warm neutrals that complement the existing building, but as we're not trying to copy it. So we took cues from the existing materials, both color-wise and the patterning of the panels on the side. If you look, I don't have a picture of the existing building on the sheet, but if we were looking at it closely, you would see that they do have kind of a concrete vertical line every 4 feet or so. So we're mimicking that with our stucco look material here. It's in a lighter gray, and we're also showing that same rhythm of 4-foot vertical sections.
On the screen, just for the record, is Exhibit A3, which was presented at the first hearing, which are photos of the existing building.
So the existing building is different tones of gray, and that it also has this kind of gray-blue accent color to it, which we chose not to go in the blue direction. We were actually looking at trying to go in a little more modern direction with this dark anodized color that we're using for the vertical metal panels, and then there's also a flat metal panel in between the floors and the glazing.
Going
And
back
that
to
would
architecturals.
that would match the framing of the storefront system. So, I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen that color is very popular right now, so we're just trying to give it a little more of a modern look, but still kind of have that warm, neutral, natural palette, you know, honoring the fact that we are across the street from a park and backed up against the woods here. We want to do something that it's kind of like a long horizontal line that can potentially stand down, blend in with the tree line, and also speak to the building that's adjacent on the side.
So if I'm standing in the park in the building that you designed, does this look good to you?
Yes, to me it does. No, because, and I think we'll go back to that with the civil plan, but for instance, the view on the right-hand side is looking towards those roll-up doors that we were all talking about, but you can see the shadow in the rendering that you're actually behind the tree line. So if you're at the park or driving down the street, you wouldn't even see that side of the building. And
Those 3 darker grayish, blue, whatever they are, panels that surround the windows, I tend to be more of a symmetry person myself. Is there a reason you didn't put another one there from a design perspective or a functional perspective?
From a design perspective, just because it's not as visible from off the property.
Okay.
So just to be more efficient with the dollars spent, but certainly we could look at that if that was
Fair
a
enough.
driving factor.
If the board wanted if the board felt there were different complementary colors that could be provided, that's certainly something we could accommodate.
Of course, yeah.
With respect to the roll-up doors, I apologize if we've already addressed it. I don't know if you addressed it. I know Mr. Natale addressed it. Is there contrast here? Is the contrast shown here just for rendering purposes, or do you expect there to be a contrast between the roll-up doors and the brick facade?
I cannot speak to the exact color match in the rendering. My sense is that's probably shadow that we're seeing. But yes, we could work to have that be as close a color match as we could possibly get. And also we could look at other door styles. Before the conversation proceeded, I was gonna ask, are we opposed to the exterior doors or just the design? And it sounds like it's more the design of the door itself, so we could certainly explore that.
I think that there's probably mixed feelings on that, but I think, as you said, there's the opportunity to possibly explore, I don't want to use the term higher end, more aesthetically pleasing doors. Is that possibility? Yeah. And if the intent of the board is to make it not stand out, you can do potentially more to ensure that it doesn't stand out.
We could definitely work towards making these stand out more.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit to the building massing?
Yes, I mean, like I mentioned, we're trying to kind of have it be a long horizontal line, which does blend in with the natural landscape a little bit better. So those darker portions are accents to give it a little more architectural interest, but generally speaking, we're trying to have the height be less obtrusive, let's put it that way.
In the background of the rendering I have on the right side of the second page of the architectural is perspective view looking southeast. It shows what appears to be a white box.
So this is a proposed stucco look material, and that hasn't been selected yet, so it could.
Right here, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's the existing building behind, yes.
Do you know if that's intended to be to scale?
It is, yes.
So the proposed height of the building is approximately 40.5 feet. Is that correct? And the ordinance permits 45 feet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Architectural perspective and what you see in the rendering, but also just your perspective based upon your experience in the industry. How will the height of this building, even though it's permitted, how will that jive with the existing adjacent building?
I think it'll be fine. I actually don't think it's that much taller. The forced perspective is making it look taller than it really is. We are estimating that the existing building's about 35 feet tall. So you're looking at a difference of,
Might have the
5 foot and change. If you could verify that, that would be
Yes,
great.
I can.
Also, the distance between the buildings is going to make them seem a little more comparable than if they were directly next to each other.
And the distance is between the two buildings is approximately 70 feet? Or let me not represent that. I'd have to confirm that.
So when you're coming from the other direction and you can actually get a sight line into the site, the perspective is going to be working in the favor of making the new building look shorter because it's further away.
Okay. Let me just fire height. So according to the site plan that was approved by the planning board, the previously approved building is 27.5 feet.
Okay, so it's a little bit shorter than I thought.
So approximately a 13-foot height difference. Correct. Reflective of a one-story difference.
That makes sense, yes.
Let me get back to the memo here. So, client can come to you and tell you as an architect, design the building any which way, right? You're given a program, so to speak, and you could make whatever building a developer comes to you appear on paper, right? Without considering the surrounding area, without considering the neighborhood, based upon the size of this building, even though you're essentially given a directive to design a building, this X number of square footage, do you think that the site can accommodate this building from an architectural standpoint?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Because I think it seems proportionally fitting with the site. I think having the mature trees in the background that exceed the height of the building, at least from your first perspective, that's the perception. I think it's set back from the road enough that it does not seem overwhelming. And like I mentioned before, I think you'll be seeing the most designed piece of the building with the glazing and the metal panel at the entry point when you drive by, and the majority of what could be considered a more warehousey look to the building will be hidden by the existing and new landscaping.
Are you ever given a objective or a design request to prepare something that right off the bat you're like, it doesn't fit?
Of course, yes.
But this is not that situation.
No, I would not categorize this that way.
Thank you. Are there any materials that we didn't touch upon that are on the exterior facade that you want to speak to?
I don't think so. I was going to point out that the lighter gray material is a stucco look material, which could be either IFAS or FRP panel, something along those lines, but that has not been officially selected yet. So kind of like a concrete look in a warm gray.
Are there changes to the facade of the building that you think could make it stand out more? Is your intent to not have this building stand out, or?
I think we want it to look nice when people notice it, but we don't want it to jump out and slap you in the face.
So are there design elements that you stayed away from in fear that it would, so as you put it, slap you in the face?
Yes, I think we stuck with more modern, clean lines to not have it grab your attention as much.
Okay. I don't remember if Mr. Michelle testified to this. Mechanical equipment is to be located on the roof, and if you don't know, that's okay.
We are anticipating that there will be some mechanical equipment on the roof. We're thinking the units are likely going to be multiple smaller units that we would try to position towards the center, so we don't believe that they'll be visible from the street, but if they were, they would be screened.
Okay. And on page 2 of your architecturals, you do have some facade signs shown. Can you speak to the proposed signage?
Yes, there's a proposed sign at the entrance that right now just says self-storage, but the dimensions are shown here to be in compliance with the ordinance.
Do you know if that sign is, if you don't know the answer, do you know if that sign's proposed to be internally illuminated, or is it typically internally illuminated?
We're proposing a backlit anodized aluminum sign. So it would be a metal material to match the metal panel and lit from behind.
Okay.
And the area is shown here as 22 square feet of the sign itself.
So I think, I'm sure the board has feedback, commentary, as well as the board professionals. So with the time that we have left, Mr. Chairman, I would love to hear some of that feedback.
Are there any questions from the board members? We have a few. Ms. Amin, do you want to go first?
Last question. Do you have any building-mounted lights on this building?
You know, we're not showing any building-mounted lights in the rendering, but there would have to be something, for egress and safety purposes. And I don't know that that's fully developed at this point.
Oh, I don't see it.
Yeah, I think Mr. Michelle testified to the proposed exterior lighting. I don't recall off the top of my head exactly what he testified to, but I believe it would be pretty standard exterior lighting that we believe complies with the township's ordinance in terms of foot candles.
I'm sure he could also show us that at some point,
Yeah,
what it's going to look like.
It's in his site plan set.
No, but I mean, when I'm looking at it architecturally, I don't know where it is. I understand what it is and what it complies with, but it'd be nice if I could see what it looks like on the building.
Understood, that could be added for sure.
And while you're doing that, Ms. Rose, you had a question?
Will this property, this building be fenced?
So there was discussion at the last hearing about proposing a gate. When you say fence, does that encompass a gate? So there was discussion at the last hearing about proposing not an access gate to the property, but to the self-storage facility. And that's something that we would want to provide to ensure that people, lessees, storage unit owners could not access the facility, at least via their vehicle, after the hours of operation. So that's something that we're committed to providing and can be a condition in the resolution of approval.
Any chance we could get a picture of it, what it's going to look like with the fence? What the building is going to look like with the fence?
With the gate, yes, yeah.
Well, the fence goes to a gate.
We wouldn't, this is why I wanted to have this exchange. So we weren't proposing enclosing the property. So if somebody wanted to walk to the property on foot, and I mean, this is a self-storage facility, so that'd be odd to go there without a vehicle to move your belongings. We wanted to secure access to the facility from a vehicle. So it would probably be, and I have to show it to you so you can see what I'm talking about. It would probably be just a gate that would prevent a vehicle from entering the self-storage parking area. So that a car couldn't
No
access.
perimeter fencing, just fencing providing access into the driveway.
To restrict vehicular access to the self-storage facility, we would propose a gate.
And the facility itself you'll be unable to access anything after 9 PM based on the testimony we received so far anyway. So even if I walked up to it, I couldn't make it work.
Right.
Because I'm shut down from having access.
Right, there would be.
No, on the outside.
There would be.
I have outside doors.
In order to access the building, you'll either have to provide keypad information or have a fob card in order to actually access the facility. But in terms of keeping vehicles, there's also a concern that we don't want there to be overnight parking. We don't want there to be outdoor storage on the property. So that's why I believe I saw this in the other resolution for the Chimney Rock self-storage, that a gate was proposed to keep vehicles off the premises outside of hours of operation. There is added security measures such as 24-hour surveillance, as well as, like I was describing, actual fob and/or keypad access requirements in order to get into the building.
But even those will be limited by the hours of operation.
Correct, but
Okay.
just saying there's additional safeguards in place.
Mr. Vignella, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. When you design the building, I see that there's an entry through the lobby, and then there's an entry through the stairwell, which then you have another door to get to the inside of the building, so on the first floor. There's no other access to the whole building other than those two doors?
That's correct, and those are really generally used for egress only. So we need to have two remote means of egress to serve the building from a safety standpoint. And
Okay.
the egress stairs, and they have to be fire rated, which is why you've got the series of doors. And it's up to management whether you'd be able to access the building that way, but mostly it's for egress, and that's how we would expect it to be used.
So a person carrying a sofa into a 10 by 20 unit has to go through the lobby or the two doors?
Yes, and that's where the majority of the parking is as well, correct, and where the elevator access is?
Yes, but usually self-storage facilities of this ilk would provide carts on premises to make the transfer of materials a little bit easier. In your hypothetical of a sofa, you might need to get a couple of strong, willing participants to get that to the lobby and into the elevator.
So like at the end of there's like a hallway, it runs the entire length of the building. There couldn't be a door at the end of that because you'd need to have a fire door?
where my cursor is this where you're referring to?
Yes.
I think that theoretically, anything is possible provided it complies with code. But if somebody wants to access the second floor, you would want your, I see what you're saying, but I don't know if that's,
It's just from my perspective of, I've used a self-storage facility in the past, and it seems like there's obstacles, and then the only entrance is on one end of the building. And that's just an observation, I guess.
Understood, and I do think that's something that we could look at.
yeah, I can have Mr. Michello present the aerial, but I believe that, Mr. Hart, are you locating the lobby door in proximity to where the proposed parking spaces are?
We are, that's true. So we'd have to look at the site elements and the access to those parts of the building to see if it makes sense to add doors there.
We can certainly look to see if it's necessary to add an additional door, but based upon the site plan that's on display there, it looks like, Mr. Hart, would you agree that the loading areas for single unit trucks are the ones that are furthest away from the lobby?
Yes.
Okay. So those are the ones that are.
I understand, it's just, I asked questions at the last hearing about where those loading areas are for the trucks also, and it just seems very roundabout, and
You do a lot of walking.
yeah. Especially if you're all the way in the unit.
All the way at the end.
Any additional questions from the board members?
Yeah.
It's getting
Yes,
late.
Mr. Chairman.
so
I have
Mr.
one
Vesio
question.
has a question.
On the egress piece, you said you need two means of egress from the building, right? You have one at the front, and then the other one, I think, is at the back corner of the building?
Correct, 2 remote means.
So when people exit that, where do they go?
So with respect to emergency egress, you just need to have a pad area outside the building where people can safely gather in the event of an emergency.
How far away from the building?
I would have to look that up to be 100% sure.
I think it has to be at least 50 feet away.
All right, well,
If you don't have a direct,
verify that.
if you don't have a direct path to the public right of way, you need about 50 feet away from the building.
We'll review
So, right, so that kind of goes in along with the, the fire lane to make sure we have enough room there. Where people would go, do they have to walk the entire length of the building to get to a point of refuge or some other path? So I certainly think that needs to be taken a look at because it does impact kind of the placement of your building and also the site design as well. My other question is looking at the renderings. Do you know what the floor-to-floor heights you use for these renderings?
Yeah, the floor-to-floor heights are actually shown on the elevation. So above grade, we're at 12-foot floor-to-floor, and then the basement level is 11-foot clear.
I mean, I'm just looking at the rendering. I'm having trouble seeing a 40-foot high building from these renderings. Maybe you can just confirm that the renderings are.
We can double check it, yes. I think that the length of the building is kind of making it seem shorter than it actually is. Which we're trying to take advantage of those horizontal proportions to make it stand down a little bit more.
Of course, the township code has its own unique way to calculate height, which I'm not sure, Mr. Hart, if that's reflected on your.
These are actual dimensions on the elevation.
But does it take into account the ordinance requirements on how to calculate height? I know Mr. Michello's calculation.
I don't know. I would have to verify that.
Okay.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
So, Mr. Silver, we are at the end of our time limit. We have questions, I'm sure, from the board professionals, so I'm afraid you're going to have to ask your architect to return. Unless the board professionals have no questions, I don't know. We have questions, okay. So we're going to have to ask Ms. DeHart to come back at the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I would love to be able to come back to the board at the next meeting with revised architecturals to address board professionals' questions, concerns, if I can't hear them this evening, if the applicant can't hear them this evening, I can't come back with revised architecturals, improvements. I don't know how long Ms. Sarmad's questions would be, but if there's any way just to hear them, we don't even have to respond to them, but just so we know what they are, that way I can at least come back in here with a chance to address them, at least through plan revisions.
Would you be comfortable just itemizing them, or would you prefer to have the witness return?
He's going to be back anyway.
No, I understand, but
I think some of my questions are related to the design that could be an update, but some of them are about other things that, would warrant a verbal response rather.
Right.
A line of questioning rather.
So with respect to anything that might impact the plans, do you have anything
I
that,
think I've already outlined them in my review.
okay. And how about Mr. Burr, from your perspective? We're looking at the architectural design, and Mr. Silbert is saying perhaps his architect would go back and incorporate some things that may have come out of questions that you might, or Ms. Sarmat might have posed.
I think my questions probably could be summarized in 3 quick points.
Fair enough.
First being, I think the board would want some clarity on the number of units being proposed, the real number of units being proposed.
Yes.
We heard 227, we've heard 305. We also heard testimony tonight that,
Could be
doesn't
500.
necessarily jive with what we're seeing on plan, so.
I think we might have to, this is just my opinion right now, but I think we might have to accept a range of units that would be acceptable to the board.
Yeah, but there's been multiple questions raised, so I think they need to talk as a team about that.
Right.
The
But I don't think that would impact the design of the building per se.
The layout plan, potentially, and
The interior.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the exterior, I don't know.
Well, unless they adjust the size of the building
Right.
based on some of the FAR questions.
Okay.
The other is, just as far as the facade is concerned, we heard testimony on the elevation, like the northwesterly elevation.
Yes.
Which is just kind of like the plain blank gray facade.
Yes.
I would recommend they take a look at that. I understand there is some existing landscape buffer closer to the railroad trestle. I know there's some landscaping proposed, but I don't think any of that landscaping is truly going to hide the entirety of that facade.
So something to make that blank section more consistent with the rest of the building or more visually appealing. Ms. Sarmat, would you agree with that assessment as well?
Dragged into this. I think my comments go beyond just adding elements to what the design currently is, because I think I raised in my review that I didn't necessarily think that the current design really fits the scale of the area. And so I have disagreements, I guess, with some of the opinions that have been presented thus far that go beyond just adding things to what's already there.
Okay.
Those
Fair enough.
are raised in my review, which is what I was getting to. So it's more complicated than just,
Yes.
I agree with the symmetry. If this is what the board likes, then that's fine. Then I would agree with that. But if it's beyond that, I think if there are a whole different design package for this, then it's, don't even worry about adding on, another panel, a few panels to the building.
Right.
Yeah.
So as I understand where this may translate, if you would like to make changes based on the general feedback that you've heard and the specific itemizations of things in Ms. Sarmat's report, along with what Mr. Burr just said, then do it, but we can't give you more than that tonight.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Also, I'd like to see what the rear elevation looks like, because there's really no buffer from the building to the railroad to
Right.
Vanderveer. And at
I think
Vanderveer,
that'd be-
you're looking directly at that building. There's no landscape, there's no buffer whatsoever.
No, it's going to be.
We'd like to see.
I'm
I
sure,
know it's an
I would
elevated
agree with
rail,
you.
but-
We'd like to see that. I'm sure, based on what we've heard so far, it's just going to be a blank wall because you've got the railroad right there.
Yeah, but it's highly visible from Vanderveer.
That's the question. How visible is it from Vanderveer? So
Well,
I think your question
if
is,
there's no landscape buffer between that and the railroad, and then from the railroad to Vanderveer, there's nothing. You're,
I hear what you're saying, and I can't visualize it, so I think you're correct in asking for that rendering.
I don't know if it was visible on the YouTube presentation. It is part of the record, but A3 provided photographs from Vanderveer to show the extensive vegetation that exists to provide buffering, not on the client's property,
Right.
but along the railroad. So this is one of the photos that was included in A3. There were 2 photos taken from Vanderveer.
So the height of the building, though, exceeds the height of the railroad as we're looking at it from this perspective, true?
I believe it does, based
Okay.
upon Mr. Michelle's testimony. I believe Mr. Michelle's testimony was that the trees do provide buffering, so.
Some buffering, sure.
The building does poke above the railroad, but
So maybe you could show us what that looks like.
yes.
I was going to suggest that maybe some more zoomed out views so that you can really get a true sense of the scale of the building with respect to the surrounding area would be helpful.
Yes.
I don't want to keep the board any longer. I just, when I'm taking the feedback, and it's good feedback, and I'm appreciative of it. What I struggle with when I put together an application, and we are seeking variances, absolutely. But if there's a building setback and we comply, if there's a height requirement and we comply, your ordinance sets forth certain standards to ensure that the impact of a building in the C3 zone is not creating a detrimental impact to the adjacent properties. We comply at least with the setback and the height. Architectural design, no windows, blank facade as you put on the rear, things of that nature, those are all things we can look at. But like, if we're complying with the setbacks and the height, and yes, we're seeking an FAR variance, but if I eliminate part of the basement, the building could become FAR compliant, but it would still look exactly the same. I want to make it better.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where you're
struggling with in seeking it.
The question is, can we see additional renderings? And if we get them, then visually, the board can say, well, that looks better than I thought it was going to look, or, oh my God, that's worse than I thought it was going to look.
Yes.
And that could be very helpful. And that would be true if you decided to add, if you came up with something creative for the roll-up doors other than color, or if you came up with some additional design to the building. That's on you, and we're trying to give you as much guidance as we can, given the constraints of time that we're facing tonight.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. A lot of good feedback that I can take back. I think we've conveyed our constraints, but we can work with the board.
Fair enough. So thank you. And with that, we're going to have to continue this hearing. I don't know when, but I'm going to ask Nancy to offer an opinion. And Richard, you'll have an opinion about notice and things like that.
What do we have for a date, Nancy?
We have, the next fully available date would be September 8th. The only other date that we don't already have double or triple booked is 8/11. And 8/11, they would be sharing the evening. The 11th is Cafe Amelia.
Yeah, so in terms of sharing the application, I think the applicant would prefer to have September 8th so they can have the hearing, but going into that decision making is the understanding that the 8th is.
You might want to turn around and.
I will. If we do the 8th, I don't know if the board's going to then say, okay, we want to do another.
Yeah. So if we agree to the 11th, are you saying you're going to share the meeting time with your other application, even though it's still the same client?
Yes, it's actually an application that I'm not involved with.
Right.
I'm sure that Mr. Talley will use his time with the board.
Very well, understood.
Michael, are you okay with extending time through 9:30?
Okay, so it's August 11th, right? Yes. Okay, so for purposes of the public, this meeting is being adjourned. It will be continued on August 11th in this room at 7 PM without further notice from the applicant. August 11th.
We're trying to be as efficient as we can, and we'd like to achieve the same objective, so you're welcome. Nancy, are there any open issues that we have to discuss before we can let everybody go?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very well. With that, and all in favor? And the motion is carried. Meeting adjourned.